Chapter 1321. Duan Ling Tian, what martial skill did you use earlier? Although it's not as powerful as the arrow that stopped my innate ability back then, it's so much more powerful than the heaven rank advanced attack martial skill that I cultivated. You must know that, I've cultivated my martial skill to the perfect level, Wang Yu said to Duan Ling Tian on their journey back. He was still stunned by the arrow rays that fell like a meteor shower earlier when he thought about it. He thought the martial skill Duan Ling Tian had cultivated was more powerful than the martial skill he had cultivated by a long shot. Both martial skills were not on the same level at all. Duan Ling Tian smiled and said nothing in response to Wang Yu's question. He knew very well Wang Yu only asked that question because he was unaware of the existence of the Saint-grade martial tactic. Although I've yet to cultivate Arrow Light Shower to the fundamental awareness stage, its power is great. With the help of the Royal Grade Spirit Archery set and my current ability, I can easily break that Dao Cultivator's Dao method that's equivalent to the 4th level Martial Emperor stage. Duan Ling Tian's heart jolted when he recalled what had happened earlier. I'll need to cultivate Arrow Light Shower to the impeccable stage first before I can start cultivating the only defensive technique in Colossal Arrow Light Arrow, the Colossal Arrow Bell. I should not slack on cultivating Arrow Light Shower in the future. Duan Ling Tian made up his mind inwardly. Speaking to Han Shuinai earlier made him realize the most powerful technique of the Colossal Arrow Light Arrow that he cultivated was the defensive technique, Colossal Arrow Bell. After all, he needed to cultivate the other techniques to impeccable stage before he could even start cultivating Colossal Arrow Bell. Impeccable stage was the highest level for Saint-grade martial tactics techniques. Naturally, the techniques that were cultivated to such heights were extraordinary. According to Han Shuinai's words, it was even comparable to the techniques from Earth-rank Saint-grade martial tactic. Duan Ling Tian and Wang Yu parted ways when they arrived at their accommodation on Half Moon Island that was arranged specially for the people from Hidden Fog Island. Wang Yu thanked Duan Ling Tian once again before they parted ways. If Duan Ling Tian did not appear in time, he would have been killed by that Dao cultivator from Coral Island. The accommodation for the people from Hidden Fog Island was a huge mansion that occupied a vast space. Duan Ling Tian was staying in a mansion within the huge mansion. He was not the only one staying at the mansion. Apart from the two ladies, Han Shuinai and the three fellows were also staying there. When Duan Ling Tian returned, he saw all of them cultivating. He did not interrupt their cultivation. Instead, he went back to his room and cultivated on his bed with his legs crossed. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, Divine Dragon Form. While he was cultivating, he was also doing some thinking. I heard from Shuinai, as soon as a powerhouse breaks through to the mortal shedding stage, there'll be changes in their techniques. I wonder what kind of changes will my 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique undergo, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Shuinai also said, the opening of Hidden Saint Vein in martial cultivators and Dao cultivators, bodies at the mortal shedding stage doesn't only depend on one's talent but on cultivation methods as well. I wonder how many Saint Veins my 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique will open for me. Duan Ling Tian felt excited. He could not wait to break through to the mortal shedding stage when he thought up to this point. He was eager to find out how many Saint Veins he could open. Duan Ling Tian. A short moment after he began cultivating with his eyes closed, he heard a voice calling out to him from outside. The bed was not even warm from him sitting on it yet. He's here so soon. Duan Ling Tian opened his eyes. There was a look of surprise on his face. He could tell the voice belonged to the Dao cultivator from Coral Island who had almost killed Wang Yu earlier. When he walked out of his room, he discovered Ka, Li Fei, Han Shuinai, and the three fellows were also woken up by the voice as they walked out of their rooms one after another. Young master, rascal, brother. The two ladies and three little fellows looked at Duan Ling Tian in unison with concern written all over their faces. Brother Ling Tian, do you know who's looking for you? That person sounds like he's here with ill intentions, should I kill him? Han Shuinai said to Duan Ling Tian. Little Devil showed her terrifying character without holding back at this moment. That's not necessary, he's a nobody. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. Subsequently, he leapt into the air and headed toward the source of the voice. Han Shuinai followed him immediately. Being nosy was one of her favorite things to do. Duan Ling Tian stopped when he arrived high above the air and hovered across two young men. The person who stood in the lead was dressed in azure. His brown hair fluttered in the wind like miniature pythons that were writhing. His body emitted a terrifying aura as he stood there. He was like a poisonous snake that was poised to attack. Meanwhile, a young man in green stood behind him. The young man in green was the person who almost killed Wang Yu earlier, the Dao cultivator from Coral Island. One could easily guess the azure-clad young man's identity. Luo Fengzhu. He was a powerful Dao cultivator who ranked number 1 in the Coral Island martial competition not too long ago. Duan Lingtian. Soon after, Wang Yu had arrived as well. The people from Hidden Fog Island showed themselves one after another. Apart from the first and third island master of Hidden Fog Island, almost everyone was here. The person who ranked number 1 in the Hidden Fog martial competition, Duan Lingtian. Luo Fengzhu finally spoke. His voice was cold without any emotions in it. The person who ranked number 1 in the Coral martial competition, Luo Fengzhu. Duan Lingtian asked slowly in return. His expression remained unchanged when he faced Luo Fengzhu. Luo Fengzhu. He's Luo Fengzhu. As soon as Duan Lingtian was done speaking, many Hidden Fog Island's disciples' expressions changed slightly. A hint of shock could be seen on their faces. You guys know him. At this moment, the people from Cloud Continent looked at the Hidden Fog Island's disciples with doubts written all over their faces. Luo Fengzhu is the direct disciple of the first island master of Coral Island. His ability is above most of Coral Island's elders. Based on Duan Lingtian's words, he must have ranked first in the Coral martial competition that took place recently. With Luo Fengzhu's ability, it's no surprise he placed first in the Coral martial competition. But Duan Lingtian comes from Cloud Continent, and Luo Fengzhu comes from Coral Island. How did conflict arise between them? Many Hidden Fog Island disciples whispered among themselves. At this moment, the people from Cloud Continent snapped back to their senses and discovered Luo Fengzhu's identity. He was the direct disciple of the first island master of Coral Island. The person who ranked number 1 in the Coral martial competition. Although it was the first time most of them heard of Coral Island, it was easy for them to figure out that it was one of the 4 great overseas Saint Islands. I heard from Lin Tai, you said all Coral Island disciples are trash. Luo Fengzhu stared at Duan Lingtian as his eyes gleamed coldly. The Lin Tai he mentioned was obviously the green-clad young man standing behind him. He was the Dao cultivator from Coral Island who ran away from Duan Lingtian earlier. Everyone present gasped when they heard Luo Fengzhu's words. Duan Lingtian provoked Coral Island. No wonder Luo Fengzhu is here. He definitely came here with ill intentions. Many people discussed among themselves. Only a small number of them believed in Duan Lingtian. They believed it was impossible for him to say such things. Wang Yu's expression changed. Although he knew Lin Tai would purposely create conflict between Duan Lingtian and Luo Fengzhu, he did not expect him to turn around and accuse Duan Lingtian instead. It was him who looked down on people from Cloud Continent and had called them trash, but now, he accused Duan Lingtian of calling Coral Island's disciples trash. He had completely turned the matter around. Just as Wang Yu was about to explain, Duan Lingtian stopped him. After stopping Wang Yu, Duan Lingtian looked Luo Fengzhu and said calmly, so what? When Duan Lingtian was done speaking, those who believed Duan Lingtian would not say such things were stunned. Since you've admitted it, then I'll show you the ability of the people you called trash. A cold gleam flashed in Luo Fengzhu's eyes. He moved as he shouted angrily. It seemed as though the wind was carrying him as he charged toward Duan Lingtian. This Dao method was called Wind Rider. His speed was not slower than Martial Emperor Yuhan whom Duan Lingtian had killed recently. Everyone's eyes were locked on Luo Fengzhu when he moved. Brother Lingtian, Martial Emperor Ling Zan had a solemn expression on his face. Judging from Luo Fengzhu's speed, he could tell he was no match for Luo Fengzhu. Although he wanted to help Duan Lingtian, there was nothing he could do. He would only make things worse if he helped Duan Lingtian now. Initially, Martial Emperor Qing Yuan wanted to help Duan Lingtian. However, he dismissed the thought when he saw how calm Han Shuinai was. Miss Shuinai has full confidence in Duan Lingtian. Martial Emperor Qing Zan thought to himself. He could tell from Luo Fengzhu's speed that he was on par with Martial Emperor Lei Ming and Martial Yuhan who ranked just below him on Cloud Continent. Since he possessed such speed, Luo Fengzhu must be powerful. He might be even more powerful than Martial Emperor Lei Ming and Martial Emperor Yuhan. Could Duan Lingtian be a match for a person like that? He highly doubted that. However, he could not help but feel shocked when he saw Duan Lingtian took out a bow and arrow with lightning speed. The arrow was shot into the air before Duan Lingtian stood on top of it. How's this possible? His speed, how can it be? Martial Emperor Qingzan noticed Duan Lingtian's speed was on par with Luo Fengzhu. Body and arrow synchronization. When faced with Luo Fengzhu who was charging toward him, Duan Lingtian cast the movement technique from Colossal Arrow Light Arrow immediately to dodge him. Luo Fengzhu's eyes betrayed a hint of shock when he saw Duan Lingtian's speed. He shook both of his arms hard, and his aura swept out like a majestic dragon, causing a tremor in the air. All of a sudden, blue water dragons appeared out of thin air one after another tens of meters away from Duan Lingtian. Divine dragons completely formed from water charged at Duan Lingtian from all directions. There was nowhere for him to run, he could only endure the attack by force. However, would Duan Lingtian put his fate in Luo Fengzhu's hands? The answer was no. Arrow Light Strike. Facing the water dragons that were charging at him from all directions, Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes before he released his grip on the bowstring that was already half pulled and shot the arrow out. Chapter 13:22. Whoosh. The shot arrow was like a meteorite falling from the sky as it crashed into one of the water dragons. The arrow collided with it destructively, causing water to splash all over the place. At this moment, an opening appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Body and arrow synchronization. Duan Lingtian shot another arrow and stood on top of it before he escaped through the opening. Bang, 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 comma. Almost as soon as Duan Lingtian escaped, the overwhelming number of water dragons arrived where he was at and collided with one another. Deafening noises reverberated in the air. At the same time, shockwaves swept out and spread everywhere. Some people with lower cultivation base were thrown out. Arrow Light Shower. After Duan Lingtian escaped, he glared at Luo Fengzhu with a cold expression on his face. He lifted his arms and pulled the bowstring to a full draw and shot the arrow once again. However, the arrow was aimed above Luo Fengzhu's head. At this moment, arrow rays rained down like a meteor shower. There was no way Luo Fengzhu could escape. Arrow Light Shower. Please, that's nothing, Luo Fengzhu shouted in his deep voice. As his azure robe fluttered, arrows suddenly appeared out of thin air. The arrows were formed from water. Attack, Luo Fengzhu shouted, and the arrows made of water flew out and destroyed the arrow rays above his head. It was water arrows against arrow rays. Luo Fengzhu crushed Duan Lingtian's attack in just a blink of an eye. I knew it, I was wondering how it's possible that he could cast such a powerful attack and possessed such a speed without any external strength. It seems like his azure robe is a spirit weapon. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes. He had noticed something out of the ordinary about Luo Fengzhu's azure robe. Luo Fengzhu's strength and speed were boosted because of it. No wonder you dared to say our Coral Island's disciples are all trash, you're not too shabby, but this ends now, Luo Fengzhu said with a gleam in his eyes. He then moved and vanished from his spot. Whoosh, Luo Fengzhu was quick. He arrived near Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye. However, he did not charge toward Duan Lingtian. Instead, he ran around him at a rapid speed. His speed increased, and it made the people who were watching feel nauseous. What's he trying to do? Many people who were watching felt confused. They had no idea what Luo Fengzhu was up to. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian who was standing in the middle of Luo Fengzhu's strange act looked solemn. As Luo Fengzhu's target and the recipient of his attention, Duan Lingtian could clearly feel the instability of the airflow at this moment. The waves of terrifying aura were growing more and more powerful. It's the wind. Soon after, Duan Lingtian figured out what Luo Fengzhu was trying to do. He's taking advantage of the wind. Once Duan Lingtian figured out Luo Fengzhu's intention, he lifted his arms and shot an arrow out. He performed the body and arrow synchronization in an attempt to escape from the trap that Luo Fengzhu was in the midst of setting up. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian dashed out quickly with the arrow. As he was about to leave the attack range, his initially pleased expression suddenly changed. Oh, no! Almost at that very second, azure wind blades appeared before Duan Lingtian before they flew at him. The wind blades seemed to be coming at Duan Lingtian with the intention to kill. Dao methods so terrifying. At this moment, Duan Lingtian deeply felt how terrifying Dao cultivators were due to their unpredictable Dao methods. The wind blades flew and arrived before Duan Lingtian in just a blink of an eye. It seemed as though they were about to hit him. Duan Lingtian did not have time to shoot his arrow at all. Oh, no! Yang Hui's expression changed drastically when he noticed the crisis Duan Lingtian was in. Ka and Li Fei's expression changed as well. Brother Lingtian, Han Shuinai was planning to attack in an attempt to help Duan Lingtian. However, she did not carry out her plan when she noticed his face was calm and relaxed now. She believed in her brother Lingtian. Clang, 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 clang. At the moment when everyone was tensed because they thought Duan Lingtian was going to be killed by the wind blades, an ear-piercing and terrifying sound reverberated in the air. The sound came almost instantly, and it was deafening. Pooh, ah! At this moment, those onlookers who had low cultivation base felt a tremor in their organs. Blood filled their throats before they spat out mouthfuls of blood. Sound of death. Duan Lingtian had a cold expression on his face as he plucked the bowstring on the bow in his hands as though he was playing the harp. However, the harp's tunes were gravely detrimental to the ears. Although the tunes sounded horrible, the power it held was great. In just a blink of an eye, the bowstring in Duan Lingtian's hand shot out arc rays every time he plucked it. He moved rapidly as the arc rays crashed into the incoming wind blades. The mellow tunes were accompanied by gusts of sweeping airwaves. They came from the arc rays that were being shot out from the bowstring that Duan Lingtian was plucking. Moreover, the arc rays had destroyed all the incoming wind blades in just an instant. How's this possible? Luo Fengju's expression changed drastically. He did not expect something like that to happen. In his opinion, since Duan Lingtian had mastered archery, which is a type of long-distance attack, close-distance attacks should theoretically be his weakness. That was why he had decided to use the Dao method that would form wind blades with unpredictable attacks. He believed Duan Lingtian would not have the time to use the archery set in his hands while he attacked. However, he did not expect that Duan Lingtian was not only adept at long-distance attack, but he was adept at close-distance attack as well. The bowstring seemed as though it had divine help. When Luo Fengju's expression changed due to the shock from Duan Lingtian's close-distance attack ability, Duan Lingtian said slowly while he shot another arrow that appeared out of thin air, "You're right, it ends now." Body and arrow synchronization. Duan Lingtian flew together with the arrow. He accelerated his speed and arrived before Luo Fengju in just a blink of an eye. Luo Fengju finally snapped back to his senses at this moment. Water barrier. Luo Fengju shouted in his deep voice with a solemn expression on his face. A wall appeared out of thin air in front of him. To be exact, it was a water wall. The water wall was formed completely from water. It became a shield in front of Luo Fengju. Bang! Duan Lingtian crashed into the water wall together with the arrow. However, the water wall only trembled for a second. It was not destroyed. Interesting, Duan Lingtian mumbled softly as he stepped on the arrow and flew up into the sky. At this moment, an arrow appeared in his hand. He placed the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring into a full draw immediately. Duan Lingtian looked below his feet and released the arrow after aiming it at Luo Fengju's head. Arrow light strike. All of a sudden, the arrow fell from the sky like a falling meteorite with a rumble as it exuded a majestic aura. When Duan Lingtian shot the arrow in his hand out, the water wall before Luo Fengju shifted to the void above his head. It was placed horizontally in an attempt to protect him. Whoosh! The falling arrow collided with the water wall in just an instant. Bang! The water wall shook violently from the collision. Bang! Another loud noise sounded. It was the energy that was released from the arrow. This time, the arrow's strength crashed into the water wall destructively and shot toward Luo Fengju's head at full strength. Luo Fengju would definitely be killed if the arrow landed on him. Although the arrow's strength was mitigated by the water wall, it would still be easy for it to kill Luo Fengju. Luo Fengju's expression changed drastically and a hint of despair appeared in his eyes when suddenly, a fiery red wall appeared above his head when the arrow was about to hit its target. The wall was made of fire. The scorching aura it exuded seemed as though it could burn everything into ashes. Hiss, 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 the arrow collided hard against the wall made of fire. Apart from the dazzling sparks from the collision, it did not do any damage to the wall at all. Who's that? Duan Lingtian's expression changed. He recalled the arrow that had almost exhausted its strength with the inscription formation as he lifted his arm. There was a terrifying gleam in his eyes. Whoosh! Almost as soon as Duan Lingtian spoke, a gust of wind blew past, and a gray-clad old man appeared across him. The old man looked at Duan Lingtian calmly. "Young man, when you can forgive and forget, choose to forgive," the gray-clad old man said coldly as he looked at Duan Lingtian. From the beginning until the end, the gray-clad old man's emotion remained unchanged. However, there was pure disdain in his eyes when he looked at Duan Lingtian. "Master, First Island Master. Han Shuinai and the others' expressions changed when Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai bowed at the old man respectfully. It was obvious who that grey-clad old man was. Coral Island's first island master. Duan Lingtian knew he would not be able to kill Luo Fengzhu today due to the appearance of the first island master of Coral Island. He could not help but mock in his deep voice, "I'm almost done with the young one, and here comes the old one, interesting." He was enraged. "Fengzhu, what happened?" The first island master of Coral Island asked in his deep voice as his eyes gleamed coldly. He had rushed here as soon as he heard Luo Fengzhu had come here. He had no idea what had transpired between them. "First Island Master," he said, "all of our Coral Island's disciples are trash. Senior brother Luo is angry, so he came here to teach him a lesson," Lin Tai said immediately before Luo Fengzhu could speak. "You said all of our Coral Island's disciples are rubbish." The first island master of Coral Island's expression changed when he heard Lin Tai's words. His eyes turned even colder now when he looked at Duan Lingtian. Wang Yu, who was watching at the side, realized the situation was turning dire, so he glared at Lin Tai fiercely and shouted, "You liar! Duan Lingtian never said that." However, Lin Tai and the first island master of Coral Island ignored him. He was surrounded by people he did not know and his disciples from Coral Island. It was only natural that would believe the latter. "What? The high and mighty first island master of Coral Island wants to attack me?" Duan Lingtian mocked as he looked at the first island master of Coral Island, who was glaring at him with killing intent. Chapter 1323. With your ability, it's not difficult for you to kill Fengzhu. I'll give you a chance since you showed him mercy earlier, the first island master of Coral Island said slowly. He looked at Duan Lingtian before he paused mid-sentence. He resembled a judge of death now. It was as though he was looking at someone whose life or death depended on his decision. Showed mercy. Duan Lingtian grinned inwardly when he heard the first island master of Coral Island's words. He did not use his full strength in the beginning because he wanted to spar with a Dao cultivator. It was not because he was trying to show mercy. If it was not for Duan Lingtian's curiosity, Luo Fengzhu would have died earlier. Luo Fengzhu was undoubtedly powerful since his strength was on par with Martial Emperor Yuhan. However, Duan Longtian had killed her without much effort. Naturally, it would be easy for him to kill Luo Fengzhu, this Coral Island's disciple, if he had used his full strength. Their fight earlier was nothing more than Duan Lingtian trying to understand the Dao cultivators, Dao methods. That was why he was not in a rush to use his full strength. He had only used his full strength when he shot the last arrow from the sky. He had unleashed all his strength when he cast Arrowlight Strike, effectively crushing the defensive Dao method Luo Fengzhu had cast. He was so close to killing him. However, the first island master of Coral Island had appeared during the critical moment and saved him. "You, kill yourself," the first island master of Coral Island began to speak again. "I'll leave your corpse intact if you do that. However, it won't be intact if you wait for me to attack." As it turned out, the chance he had mentioned earlier was letting Duan Lingtian commit suicide. As soon as the first island master of Coral Island was done speaking, apart from Han Shuinai and the three fellows, Ka, Li Fei, and the people from Hidden Fog Island's expressions changed drastically. Kill himself. Everyone who was close to Duan Lingtian had a terrible expression on their faces at this moment. Kill myself. Duan Lingtian was stunned initially when he heard the first island master of Coral Island's words. However, he could not help but smile widely after a while. "Why are you smiling?" The first island master of Coral Island's expression turned solemn as the killing intent in his eyes intensified. The robe on his body fluttered even though there was no wind. He appeared as though he would attack at any given time. "I'm smiling at how naive you are. You stopped me from killing Luo Zufeng, who ranked number 1 in the Coral Martial competition. What makes you think that Island Master Tang won't attack if you try to kill me, the number 1 in Hidden Fog Martial competition?" Duan Lingtian looked at the first island master of Coral Island as though he was an idiot. Among those who came to Half Moon Island, the 3 individuals who ranked number 1 in the 3 overseas Saint Islands martial competitions undoubtedly had the highest chance of being selected as the direct disciple of Diyang, the island master of Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian was one of them. The 3 overseas Saint Islands had sacrificed many Saint Stones to look for the most suitable direct disciple for Diyang, the island master of Half Moon Island. Duan Lingtian did not believe the 3 overseas Saint Islands would not get anything in return for their hard work. Tang Zhen, the first island master of Coral Island, frowned. He suddenly recalled he was at the residence where the people from Hidden Fog Island were staying. His eyes gleamed coldly. He had made up his mind. He would kill Duan Lingtian before the island master of Hidden Fog Island showed up. Whoosh! At the moment when the first island master of Coral Island made up his mind, a gust of wind blew past and revealed a silhouette of an old person standing in front of Duan Lingtian. Lu Zhang. The person who had just appeared was Tang Zhen, the island master of Hidden Fog Island. He glared coldly at Lu Zhang, the first island master of Coral Island, as soon as he arrived. Lu Zhang's face turned solemn the instant he saw Tang Zhen. He knew it was impossible for him to kill Duan Lingtian now that Tang Zhen had shown up. HMPH. Lu Zhang scoffed and gestured to Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai. Let's go. Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai followed him when he spoke, preparing to take their leave. Tang Zhen said nothing from the beginning until the end. He only came to protect Duan Lingtian. Since Duan Lingtian was fine now, he did not want to start a conflict with Lu Zhang. Their strength was similar. It would be a lose-lose situation for them if a conflict arose between them. Stop right there. Although Tang Zhen was willing to let Lu Zhang leave, somebody was unwilling. When the cold voice reverberated in the air, Lu Zhang, who was leaving with Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai, stopped moving. The three of them turned around at the same time and looked at the source of the voice. It was a young girl dressed in yellow. She looked like she was 15 or 16 years old. Shui Nai. Duan Lingtian looked at Han Shui Nai and said through voice transmission, Shui Nai, let him go, I'm afraid his ability is on par with Tang Zhen. You might not be a match for him if he has cultivated saint-grade martial tactic. Although he wanted to tear Lu Zhang into a million pieces, he knew he did not have the ability to do so now. He would take whatever happened today to heart. He would definitely teach Lu Zhang a lesson in the future when his ability surpassed Lu Zhang. One should bide one's time and wait for the right opportunity to seek revenge. That was how he remained calm. Han Shuinai did not respond to Duan Lingtian. Instead, she walked slowly in the air and looked at Lu Zhang and the other two. Little girl, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because Tang Zhen has your back. If you provoke me, even Tang Zhen won't be able to protect you. Lu Zhang said in his deep voice as he looked at Han Shuinai. The tone of his voice turned colder. Tang Zhen's face turned solemn as he glared at Lu Zhang. Han Shuinai glanced at Lu Zhang and said coldly, You're thinking too much, I don't need anyone at my back. Don't need anyone at your back. Lu Zhang was stunned before he smirked. I'm curious, where does your confidence come from? You even have the guts to provoke me. I'll give you a chance, kill yourself. Otherwise, you'll die without an intact corpse. Han Shuinai slowly repeated the words he had said to Duan Lingtian back at him. It was obvious she was standing up for Duan Lingtian. You want me to kill myself? Otherwise, I won't have an intact corpse. Lu Zhang was stunned when he heard Han Shuinai's words. However, he could not help but laugh after that. Even Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai, who followed behind Lu Zhang, looked at Han Shuinai with a ridiculing gaze. They thought Han Shuinai had gone insane. In their opinion, only lunatics would say something like that to the first island master of Coral Island. When Ka, Li Fei, Martial Emperor Qingzan, and the others heard Han Shuinai's words, they thought she was just trying to goad him. Duan Lingtian was the only exception. They did not think Han Shuinai possessed the capability to rip Lu Zhang into pieces. They thought she had only said that to stand up for Duan Lingtian. Even Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, thought the same. I'll give you the span of 3 breaths starting from now, either kill yourself, or you'll die without an intact corpse. Han Shuinai proceeded to speak. Her voice was even colder than before. The span of 3 breaths. Great, I'm left with 2 breaths now. I, Lu Zhang, would love to see how a little girl like you are going to rip me into pieces. Lu Zhang's eyes contained disdain when he looked at Han Shuinai. In his opinion, Han Shuinai was just a rude and naive little girl. She was no threat to him. One more breath left. Another breath passed as Lu Zhang reminded Han Shui of it. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. He was waiting for her to embarrass herself after a breath. You're in way over your head. Lin Tai, who stood behind Lu Zhang, mocked. Time's up. Han Shuinai finally spoke. To the rest, she sounded normal. However, her voice was like the sound of death to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian knew Han Shuinai very well. She would not have said something like that unless she was fully confident of it. This Lu Zhang is going to die. Although he had no idea why Han Shuinai was so confident, he did not doubt her words at all. If she wanted Lu Zhang dead, it was impossible for Lu Zhang to live. Soon after, Duan Lingtian received his answer. When Han Shuinai spoke, she lifted her arm and something came out of it. Upon closer inspection, one would see that it was a piece of paper. The paper was yellow with scribbles on it. Dao Talisman. Duan Lingtian's eyes widened, and his face revealed a shocked expression when he saw the familiar yellow paper and scribbles. Appear, Han Shuinai said in her deep voice when Duan Lingtian was still in shock. Although her voice was soft, everyone present heard her. Subsequently, what they saw was something that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. When Han Shuinai spoke, the yellow paper with scribbles on it turned into powder. At the same time, Lu Zong's body exploded. His flesh had completely scattered, not a complete piece of his body could be found. Before his body exploded, everyone had seen the scornful smile on his face. He had been smiling when he exploded. Master. First Island Master. Bloody flesh was scattered everywhere and splashed onto Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai's faces since they were standing closest to Lu Zhong. However, they seemed numb as they only looked dumbstruck after a bout of loud screaming. They were completely shocked by this turn of events. Soon after, Han Shuinai moved again. She lifted her arm to freeze the air. She froze the scattered bloody flesh into ice sculptures before she crushed them into powder, and it disappeared from this world. Silence. It was completely silent. Apart from the three little fellows, everyone, including Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, looked at the yellow-clad young girl in shock. At this moment, they all felt a chill that rose from their feet to their heads. It's a Dao talisman. Although it's different from the 3 Dao talismans my cheapskate father left me, the one that Shuinai just used is indeed a Dao talisman. Duan Lingtian finally found out why Han Shuinai was so confident. It was because she had a Dao talisman on her. With the Dao talisman, Shuinai killed Lu Zhong in just a blink of an eye. She killed the high and mighty first island master of Coral Island whose ability was as powerful as Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island. Chapter 1324. How dare you make a fuss in front of me? You're asking for death, Han Shuinai said with a scoff. At this moment, the people present were looking at her with fear in their eyes. If they did not witness this personally, they would not have believed this harmless-looking young girl had killed the first island master of Coral Island in just a blink of an eye. At this moment, the yellow-clad young girl had turned into a little devil they did not dare to offend. What was that yellow paper she tossed out earlier? I've no idea. I only saw her tossing out the yellow paper before she said, "Appear." The first island master of Coral Island died after that. That yellow paper is so terrifying. She's the one who is terrifying. I can't believe she has such a thing on her. The people watching whispered among themselves. The yellow paper with scribbles on it was imprinted deeply in their minds. It would be difficult for them to forget it. Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, inhaled sharply. There was a complicated look in his eyes. He did not expect that yellow-clad young girl who followed him all the way to Half Moon Island would possess such a technique. Lu Zong's ability was not any weaker than his. Did that not mean that yellow-clad girl could kill him as well if she wanted to? After killing Lu Zhong, Han Shuinai's eyes shifted to Luo Zufeng and Lin Tai. It caused their expressions to change. HMPH. Han Shuinai scoffed and lifted her arm as everyone looked on. A gust of cold and bone-piercing wind swept out and froze Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai before they even had time to react. Pa! Pa! Subsequently, the 2 ice sculptures trembled as terrifying cracks began to spread. Eventually, they turned into a pile of crushed ice and fell to the ground. Everyone who was watching could not help but inhale sharply. There was fear in their eyes when they looked at Han Shuinai again. Meanwhile, there were 2 silhouettes standing high above the air. It was a bull-like tall and muscular middle-aged man and 3 old men. The 3 old men stood behind the middle-aged man, indicating that middle-aged man held a higher position than them. The middle-aged man wore black armor, and he looked like a mighty general. However, there was fear in his big and bright eyes. The fear rose from the bottom of his heart and came from his soul. Who exactly is she? The middle-aged man mumbled softly. If one were to listen carefully, one would be able to detect the slight tremor in his voice. Island Master, she's someone Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, brought here, one of the old men said. If Duan Lingtian were here, he would definitely recognize the person who was currently speaking. He was the vice island master of Half Moon Island who had arranged their accommodation 2.5 months ago. Xiao Kun. The other person's identity was obvious by the way Xiao Kun addressed him as Island Master. It was De Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island. De Yong's muscular body made him look like a bull from afar. His eyes were sparkling with wisdom. One could tell he was not all brawn and no brain. It was only natural. It was impossible he would be ordinary since he was the island master of Half Moon Island, the leading island of the 4 great overseas Saint Islands. I can't believe she has a Tao talisman, she must have come from the Tao Martial Saint Land, De Yong said solemnly. Tao talisman. The 3 old men had a shocked expression on their faces when they heard De Yong's words. Island master, did you say she was using a Tao talisman earlier? Shao Kun inhaled sharply. There was an expression of disbelief on his face. I'm sure it is. Although it's my first time seeing a Tao talisman, from the recordings on Tao talisman in ancient books, saying, appear, after tossing it out as the way to use a Tao talisman, De Yong said. Tao talisman, only Tao cultivators above Saint Rudiment stage would be able to draw it. Moreover, not every Tao cultivators above Saint Rudiment stage have the capability to draw Tao talismans. It's said that one must be talented in a specific aspect to be able to draw a Tao talisman, otherwise, even a Saint stage Tao cultivators won't be able to draw it, the 2 old men said immediately with a solemn expression. A person below the Saint Rudiment stage from Tao Martial Saint Land who has a Tao talisman, she must have a powerful background, otherwise, it's impossible for her to have the Tao talisman. De Yong took a deep breath. This girl either has a powerhouse above the Saint Rudiment stage or a powerful force from Tao Martial Saint Land backing her. No matter what, she's not someone Half Moon Island can offend. Island Master, do we still carry on with the plan? If we offend the force or powerhouse behind this girl, our Half Moon Island, although Shao Kun did not finish what he was saying, De Yong and the other 2 men knew what he was going to say. The 2 old men were like Shao Kun, they were also Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. The plan goes on. We'll distract her when the plan takes place, we can't offend her, but that doesn't mean we can't avoid her, right? De Yong's eyes flashed. As long as the plan comes to fruition, Island Master's ability will definitely be elevated. At that time, with your ability, you'll be able to rule the remote parts of Tao Martial Saint Land. It doesn't even matter if you have to give up Half Moon Island, the other Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island said. That's right. The last Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island assented as well. If that's the case, we'll carry on with the plan, however, it's such a pity that Luo Fengzhu died, Shao Kun said. It's indeed a pity, De Yong nodded. Although the plan goes on, we have to be fully prepared against this girl. It's going to be hectic for us in the next half a month. Soon after, De Yong and the 3 Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island left. Nobody noticed their presence from the beginning until the end. Very soon, the news of Han Shui-nai killing the first Island Master of Coral Island and Luo Fengzhu, the person who ranked number 1 in the Coral Martial competition, spread through the entire Half Moon Island. At this moment, everyone on Half Moon Island found out about the devil from Hidden Fog Island. The devil who killed Lu Zhang, the first Island Master of Coral Island, in just a blow. Even Tang Zhen, the first Island Master of Hidden Fog Island whose ability was on par with Lu Zhang, would not be able to do that. Ever since then, most people from Hidden Fog Island would behave like a mouse seeing a cat whenever they saw Han Shui-nai. Only Duan Lingtian and the others who already knew Han Shui-nai stayed unaffected. Although Ka, Li Fei, and Martial Emperor Qingzhan were familiar with her, her technique still shocked them. Young Master, Ka handed Duan Lingtian something. Saint Token. Duan Lingtian recognized the Saint Token at first glance. Ka handed him the Saint Token containing Colossal Aerolite Arrow. Ka, you don't have to return this to me for now, I won't be able to use it yet. You and Little Fair will need it until both of you have cultivated Colossal Aerolite Arrow to its peak, Duan Lingtian said. Just like everyone else, the 2 ladies needed the Saint Token with them whenever they cultivated the Saint Grade Martial Tactic, since they were only able to read a part of the information in the Saint Token. They were not like him. He could retrieve everything about the Saint Grade Martial Tactic in the Saint Token at once and commit them to memory. They would only be able to retrieve more information about Saint Grade Martial Tactic after comprehending the information they had retrieved and cultivated to a certain level. They would only be able to retrieve everything in the Saint Token after they cultivated the techniques to the proficient stage. The proficient stage was the 4th stage of the techniques in Saint Grade Martial Tactic. Impeccable stage would be the stage above it. It was the 5th stage and the highest one. Young Master, me and Sister Fair have tried it many times during this period of time, we don't have talent in archery. It's better that we continue cultivating with a sword, Ka said, so it's useless for us to keep this Saint Token with us. Realization dawned on Duan Lingtian. He understood what Ka was trying to say. If he was not an outstanding sniper in his past life, he would not be able to master and familiarize himself with archery so quickly in this life. Anybody could pick up archery, but shooting accurately without missing was not simple, let alone killing 2 birds, 3 birds, 4 birds or even 5 birds with a single arrow. I know a great place for cultivating swords, Duan Lingtian said with a smile after putting the saint token away. Where's that? Ka's eyes lit up. I'll bring you and Little Fair somewhere after we're done with Half Moon Island. Along the way, both of you can pay respect to senior sister Yang Shui, and we can drop by 7-star sword sect to visit Peak Master Qin Shang, Duan Lingtian said. Ka nodded. Her beautiful eyes turned red when Duan Lingtian mentioned Yang Shui. Time passed by quietly. During the next half a month, apart from cultivating, Duan Lingtian also comprehended the 2 profundities and cultivated the techniques in Colossal Arrow Light Arrow. Apart from the defensive technique Colossal Arrow Bell that he could not cultivate yet, he cultivated the other techniques as well even though he mostly focused on 2 techniques. Arrow Light Strike and Body and Arrow Synchronization. He had currently cultivated these 2 techniques to the fundamental awareness stage. Boy, your Arrow Light Strike should reach the elementary stage in a couple of days. Wang Ba's voice sounded in Duan Lingtian's mind half a month later. I'm confident I'll be able to break through within 10 days, unfortunately, the Island Master of Half Moon Island is selecting his direct disciple soon. I don't have enough time, Duan Lingtian said. With your current ability, as long as that girl doesn't fight you, it's not difficult for you to become the direct disciple of the Island Master of Half Moon Island, Wang Ba said. Shui Nai, she's not interested in becoming the Island Master of Half Moon Island's direct disciple, she just wants to have fun. Duan Lingtian smiled while shaking his head. How about you, are you interested in becoming the Island Master of Half Moon Island's direct disciple? Wang Ba asked Duan Lingtian before he said in disdain, according to my speculation, that Island Master of Half Moon Island is only at the mortal shedding stage at the most, moreover, he's just at the lower level of the mortal shedding stage. Do you really want such an ant to be your master? Wang Ba asked again. Chapter 1325, Ant. Duan Lingtian's lips twitched when he heard Wang Ba's words. He could not believe Wang Ba called someone at the mortal shedding stage an ant. If that was true, did it not mean that Duan Lingtian was worse than an ant? Duan Lingtian was currently an innate void restoration stage martial cultivator. If he were to follow the Tao martial saint land, no matter if it was the acquired stage or the innate stage, both of them were merely at the mortal stage. Whether if it were martial cultivators or Tao cultivators, they would only be able to break through to the mortal shedding stage successfully after breaking the mortal stage's shackles. I'll see when the time comes. I have a feeling that things are not as simple as they seem, Duan Lingtian said. He had thought about this a few times. Since Di Yang, the Island Master of Half Moon Island, was suspected to be at the mortal shedding stage, nobody would be a match for him on the 4 great overseas saint lands or Cloud Continent. At least nobody was a match for him on the surface of things. Nothing was absolute. Duan Lingtian did not dare to say there were no hidden powerhouses on Cloud Continent or the overseas Saint Islands. Shui Nai had frequently visited the overseas Saint Islands and Cloud Continent, so it was entirely possible for other powerhouses from Tao Martial Saint Land to visit as well. Today was the day Di Yang, the Island Master of Half Moon Island, would test the 3 participants from the 3 overseas Saint Islands and select his direct disciple. With the guidance of the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, the 3 participants from the overseas Saint Islands arrived deep in the mountain on the north of Half Moon Island. The mountain was surrounded by fog all year long, and there were many inscription formations set up within it. Duan Lingtian could clearly sense the waves from the inscription formations from far away. They're from Coral Island. Duan Lingtian looked at the group of people nearby. There was an old man leading a group of 28 people instead of 30. They all followed behind him closely. The 2 missing people were Luo Fengzhu and Lin Tai, whom Han Shui Nai killed half a month ago. That's the 2nd Island Master of Coral Island. A voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. He could tell it was Master Feng Wen, the 3rd Island Master of Hidden Fog Island. Ever since Han Shui Nai's attack from half a month ago, no matter if it were the 1st or 3rd Island Master of Hidden Fog Island, all of them treated the people close to Han Shui Nai politely. Seeing that Duan Lingtian looked interested in the leader of the people from Coral Island, Feng Wen took the initiative to disclose this information to him. He was doing that to please Han Shui Nai since Duan Lingtian was close to her. Therefore, Feng Wen did not dare to slack when he was around Duan Lingtian. At this moment, the people from Coral Island noticed Duan Lingtian and the others. Their eyes were filled with vengeance as they looked at Han Shuinai, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian. "What, are you guys planning to avenge those three fellows?" Han Shuinai asked slowly as she glanced at the people from Coral Island. Her eyes gleamed fiercely when she spoke. All of a sudden, the expressions of everyone from Coral Island, including the second island master of Coral Island, changed drastically. Although they were angry, they shifted their eyes away from Han Shuinai in the end. This was not a joke. This person killed their first island master, the #1 powerhouse on Coral Island, half a month ago in just one blow. It would be a piece of cake for her to kill them if they offended her. "It's the people from Heaven Reef Island," someone said. Duan Lingtian immediately shifted his attention to another group of people. They were led by an old man and a middle-aged man, while 30 people followed close behind. Naturally, apart from the 30 people, there were also a group of people who followed from far behind. It was obvious they only came to join in the fun. Just like the martial emperors, demon emperors and their disciples from Cloud Continent who did not make it to the top 30 joined the fun during the Hidden Fog martial competition. After the group from Heaven Reef Island arrived, they glanced at Han Shuinai too. There was fear in the depth of their eyes. It was obvious they had caught wind of what Han Shuinai did half a month ago. "Everyone else, please wait here. Those in the top 30 of the Hidden Fog martial competition, follow me," Shao Kun, the Vice Island Master of Half Moon Island, said. He was the one who arranged the accommodation for the people from Hidden Fog Island. At the same time, the other 2 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island spoke to the people from the 2 other overseas Saint Islands. At this moment, participants from the 3 overseas Saint Islands gathered under the guidance of the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. They disappeared before everyone and entered the deep mountain that was shrouded with fog. "I supposed it's hopeless for the rest to compete for the spot of Master De Yong's direct disciple today," somebody said with a sigh. "That's right, that lady from Hidden Fog Island even killed the first island master of Coral Island. She'll probably be the winner today, she'll probably be selected by Master De Yong to be his direct disciple," someone said in agreement. "I don't think so. I heard she killed the first island master of Coral Island with the help of external strength. She might not be a match for the first island master of Coral Island without the help of external strength," somebody said. "She killed the first island master of Coral Island with the help of external strength, however, she didn't use external strength when she killed Luo Fengzhu, who ranked #1 in the Coral Martial competition." "That's right, although Luo Fengzhu was distracted at that time, she managed to kill him before he even had time to react. Her ability's definitely above Luo Fengzhu. If she's so powerful, why isn't she #1 in the Hidden Fog martial competition?" Many of them discussed Han Shuinai among themselves. Soon after, they heard from the people of Hidden Fog Island that Han Shuinai did not participate in the Hidden Fog martial competition back then. If she participated, she would have been #1 in the Hidden Fog martial competition, that Duan Lingtian won't stand a chance at all, many of them said after finding out what had happened. As the crowd carried on with their discussion outside, Duan Lingtian and the other 88 participants discovered the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island had vanished into thin air shortly after entering deep into the mountain. Soon after, everything before their eyes became illusory. Subsequently, all of them noticed they had arrived at a different place. The place seemed real, but they knew everything was just an illusion. Illusory formation. Duan Lingtian smiled in disdain. Although his spiritual energy was only at the 3rd level Martial Emperor stage, which made it difficult for him to counter Martial Emperor powerhouses at a higher level, it was enough for him to see through the illusory formation. One must know that he had inherited the rebirth Martial Emperor's memories from his 2 lives. Apart from being a royal-grade weapons craftsman, the rebirth Martial Emperor was also an inscription master during his 2nd life. With the help of rebirth Martial Emperor's memory on inscription Dao, Duan Lingtian managed to see through the illusory formation with his spiritual energy quickly. From the beginning until the end, the obstacles within the illusory formation did not even manage to materialize. After breaking the illusory formation, Duan Lingtian noticed there seemed to be devils dancing around him. Those who came in with him were flying in every direction and attacking without stopping. They were attacking the air like they were possessed. Many of them were even accidentally hurt. Duan Lingtian knew their insanity was the doing of the illusory formation. Where's Shuinai? Duan Lingtian's expression changed slightly when he noticed Shuinai was nowhere to be seen. Apart from Shuinai, the other 86 people were around him. There was a total of 87 people, including him. Shui Nai was the only one missing. Did something happen to Shui Nai? Duan Lingtian had a terrible expression on his face. When Duan Lingtian was about to leave to look for Shui Nai, a gust of wind blew around him out of nowhere. It felt like the wind came from a grave. It would give rise to goosebumps to people who encountered it. Duan Lingtian's face turned solemn when he felt that eerie wind. Kid, you have bad luck today, it's a mortal shedding stage devil cultivator, Wang Ba's voice sounded in a timely manner in Duan Lingtian's mind. Devil cultivator. Duan Lingtian's eyes widened in shock. He was no stranger to devil cultivators. He had taken the initiative to learn about them from Wang Ba. He had asked Wang Ba because he was a devil cultivator back then. He was a devil cultivator at the saint stage, that was why he knew devil cultivators as well as he knew himself. Devil cultivator was just a general name. Anyone who used unorthodox cultivation techniques to cultivate and elevate their abilities was called devil cultivators, regardless if they were martial cultivators or Dao cultivators. I can't believe you broke the illusory formation so quickly, a voice with a tinge of surprise in it sounded at this moment. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian noticed a muscular silhouette had appeared before him as a rumbling black fog came from all directions. It was a middle-aged man dressed in black. He was so big and tall that he looked like a gigantic tower. The black-clad middle-aged man's eyes were locked on him at this moment. You're Di Yang. When Duan Lingtian was about to ask the black-clad middle-aged man who he was, Wang Ba spoke in his head. That was how he discovered the black-clad man's identity. That's right, I'm Di Yang, the island master of Half Moon Island, the black-clad middle-aged man said. Di Yang, you got the 3 overseas Saint Islands to select us in the name of recruiting a direct disciple for you, did you do everything just for today? So you can absorb our vital essence? Duan Lingtian asked in his deep voice as his eyes gleamed ferociously. How do you know that? Di Yang narrowed his eyes in shock when he heard Duan Lingtian detailing his plan. He did not expect him to be able to guess his plan. One had to know, apart from him, only the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island knew about the plan. It did not occur to him that there was a devil cultivator hiding deep in the recesses of Duan Lingtian's mind. Moreover, the devil cultivator was a saint stage powerhouse at his peak. Naturally, Wang Ba had seen through Di Yang's plot. He wanted to absorb the vital essence of everyone present so he could elevate his ability using their lives. Chapter 1326. Duan Lingtian had already felt that something was wrong in the beginning. As the island master of Half Moon Island, he should have no lack of successors. However, he still asked the other 3 great overseas Saint Islands to send him powerhouses at the prime of their lives. This was really unfathomable. Previously, Duan Lingtian had learned from Wang Ba that martial or Dao cultivators below the age of 70 were considered as being at the prime of their lives in Dao martial Saint Land. After all, as long as a martial or Dao cultivator in the Dao martial Saint Land made a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage, their lifespan would increase to about 300 years old. When they made another breakthrough to the Saint Rudiment stage, another 200 years would be added to their lifespan. As for a Saint stage powerhouse, it was even more appalling. Even the weakest could live up to at least 1,000 years old. Those at the top possessed an eternal lifespan. As long as they were not killed by someone else, they would share the same lifespan as the universe. Due to this reason, those below 70 years old were all considered as being in their prime in the Dao martial Saint Land. No wonder the Hidden Fog martial competition only allows those who are tested by the age measuring pearl to participate. Aren't people whose age are able to be tested by the age measuring pearl 70 years old or younger? Duan Lingtian finally understood the situation when he put all the pieces together. From the very beginning, the announcement that Di Yang, the island master of the Half Moon Island, made about taking in a direct disciple to be the next successor of island master of the Half Moon Island was just a bluff. His intention was to let the 3 great overseas Saint Islands send powerhouses in their prime over so he could absorb their vital essence. Absorbing the vital essence of martial and Dao cultivators in their prime to raise his own strength. Such a devil technique is the lowest level devil technique in Dao martial Saint Land, Wang Ba's voice echoed in Duan Lingtian's mind. It was filled with disdain. As a former Saint stage devil cultivator, he had his own pride. The thing he looked down on the most was those devil cultivators who cultivated low-level devil techniques. In his opinion, this type of devil cultivator was trash. They were not even worthy to carry his shoes for him. The lowest level devil technique. Is it because such a devil technique only brings a small elevation to one's strength? Duan Lingtian asked. As long as there is enough vital essence provided by these martial and Tao cultivators in their prime, the elevation would be huge and the cultivation speed wouldn't be inferior to those who cultivate mid-level devil technique, Wang Ba explained. Since the elevation is huge and the cultivation speed is fast, why is it considered a low-level devil technique? Duan Lingtian was confused. This type of low-level devil technique is not even comparable to other low-level devil techniques. Sometimes, a huge elevation and a fast cultivation speed might not necessarily be a good thing. Wang Ba snorted. Well, if these people who cultivate this devil technique are willing to stay in the mortal shedding stage forever, then it's still acceptable. However, if he dares to try and enter the saint rudiment stage, he'll most likely end up dead. The cultivator of this low-level devil technique won't notice anything amiss in the early stages of his cultivation period. However, when he begins to approach the saint rudiment stage, he'll realize the bane he had unknowingly taken on is the root of the trouble that'll take his life. Wang Ba finished in one breath. Duan Lingtian finally understood. So it's like that. Wang Ba. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian remembered something. Does this De Yang have any requirement when absorbing the vital essence of powerhouses in their prime? Of course, Wang Ba answered, those powerhouses in their prime who are more powerful will have a greater vital essence. Otherwise, why do you think he asked the 3 great overseas saint islands to pick 90 of the most outstanding people? Duan Lingtian nodded. He finally understood everything now. Boy, you've yet to answer me. Do you know why I want to absorb your vital essence? De Yong's voice reverberated in the air and took Duan Lingtian by surprise. When Duan Lingtian snapped back to reality, he was horrified by the scene before his eyes. Dear Lord, what did he just witness? De Yong was standing in the distance. Somehow, streaks of black rays stretched out of his body. Each of these black rays was connected to one person. They were all connected to the 86 powerhouses in their prime. At this moment, apart from De Yong and the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island, only 88 people, including Duan Lingtian, had entered the deep mountain. There were originally 90 people, but Han Shuinai had killed 2 men from Coral Island, so now, there were 2 fewer people. When Duan Lingtian destroyed the illusory formation and snapped back to reality, he discovered that Han Shuinai was already gone. Due to this reason, there were only 86 people left, excluding him. At this moment, these 86 people were all connected to the black rays that were stretching out from De Yong's body. The black rays were emitting waves of terrifying aura. This aura seems familiar. As horror dawned on Duan Lingtian, his heart jolted. He felt as though he had come in contact with such an aura before, but he could not recall it at the moment. De Yong hovered in the air as the 86 black rays stretched out of his body, giving the appearance of a spider web. He was like the spider that was situated in the center of the spider web. As for the 86 people who were connected to the 86 black rays, they were like his prey. Bang! Suddenly, a deafening sound reverberated in the air. An impact wave rushed out of De Yong's body and swept out. It shook Duan Lingtian until his vital blood and energy were in chaos. As a result, he almost vomited blood. It was only after a long time that Duan Lingtian managed to return to his senses. At this moment, Duan Lingtian saw the 86 people connected to the black rays suddenly shivered. In the next instant, crimson mists came out of their bodies and were heading toward De Yong through the black rays. Wang Yu. At this moment, Duan Lingtian saw one of the people suddenly opened his eyes. It was Wang Yu, the direct disciple of Martial Emperor Qingzan. When Wang Yu opened his eyes, he was horrified when he realized that something was wrong. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, he lifted a hand and released a palm blade that cut the black ray that was connected to him easily and broke free from it. This week, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up immediately when he saw the crimson mist was no longer coming out from his body and how easily he had severed the black ray. This meant he could easily cut off the other 85 black rays and rescue all of them, right? When Duan Lingtian was about to make a move, Wang Ba's voice resonated in his mind. His words were like cold water that was splashed on his head. Boy, unless it's the person who's connected, other people will need strength equivalent to De Yong if he wants to cut those black rays. Duan Lingtian unconsciously frowned when he heard this. Then, you mean, only those who are connected to the black rays are able to cut it off? Didn't you see it? This boy, Wang Yu, managed to cut off the black ray that was connected to him easily. It was easy because that black ray wants to absorb his vital essence and did not repel him. As for the other 85 black rays, he won't be able to cut them at all. The moment Wang Ba's words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian saw Wang Yu charged out at lightning speed and tried to rescue his brothers from the same master. There were multiple people under Martial Emperor Qingzhan's command who managed to make it to the top 30 during the Hidden Fog martial competition. Unfortunately, no matter how Wang Yu tried to attack it, he was still unable to inflict any damage on the black rays connected to his brothers from the same master even though he had used his spirit weapon and innate talent. Wang Yu's expression turned horrified. After casting a glance filled with shock at Di Yong who was in the middle of the 85 black rays, Wang Yu looked around. It did not take long before he discovered Duan Lingtian, and his eyes immediately lit up. Duan Lingtian, what's going on? Wang Yu asked with a horrified expression as soon as he was next to Duan Lingtian. In the distance, the 85 black rays continued to transfer the rich crimson mist into Di Yong's body. At the same time, the skin of the people who were connected to the 85 black rays began to age. The transformation was more apparent in those who were originally young. As the crimson mists continued to gush out from their bodies and were transferred to Di Yong's body, wrinkles began to appear on their faces. The wrinkles kept increasing, and their black hair began to turn white as well. Compared to their hair turning white in just a few moments, having one's black hair turning white overnight did not seem like a big deal anymore. In just a few moments, their black hair was completely white. Just by looking at them with naked eyes, Duan Lingtian could see their vital essence being drained, and their vitality was decreasing as well. At that time when the final ounce of their vital essence was absorbed, their lives would end. What a fast absorbing speed! Horror dawned on Duan Lingtian's face. He did not even have time to explain anything to Wang Yu. Instantly, he asked Wang Ba, if I use the Devil Seal tablet, will I be able to go against him? Duan Lingtian had already recalled the reason he found the aura emitting out of Di Yong's body familiar. It was because the Devil Seal tablet's aura was more or less similar. The Devil Seal tablet was a super saint weapon ranked in the Dao Martial Saint Land's 10 Great Saint Weapon rankings. It was not very powerful, but it had an appalling ability. It could restrain devil cultivators. To be more precise, it could restrain a devil cultivator's soul. Of course, if you activate the Devil Seal tablet with your cultivation base, it'll be more than enough to go against him, Wang Ba answered. Then why didn't you tell me this earlier? Upon hearing Wang Ba's words, Duan Lingtian was horrified when he saw how the 85 people were on the verge of dying. Because I don't want to talk about it, Wang Ba replied as a matter of fact. His words were clear, he did not want to talk about the Devil Seal tablet at all. As a devil cultivator, especially a devil cultivator who had been sealed by the Devil Seal tablet for so many years, Wang Ba hated the Devil Seal tablet from the depth of his soul. It was only natural he did not want to talk about it at all. The lives of those 85 people meant nothing to him. I'll deal with you later. Duan Lingtian snarled loudly. With a raise of his hand, the royal grade spirit archery set appeared. As the bowstring was pulled into the shape of a full moon, an arrow was shot out. Body and arrow synchronization. At the moment when Duan Lingtian stepped on the arrow and charged out, he withdrew the strong bow in his hands and retrieved a stone tablet. It was a stone tablet with a chipped corner. The moment the stone tablet appeared, as though he was injected with booster, he was instantly pulled in Di Yong's direction. Duan Lingtian's speed increased immediately. The Devil Seal tablet was very sensitive to the presence of devil cultivators, especially if they did not deliberately hide their souls. The purpose of its existence was to seal the souls of devil cultivators. Die. As Duan Lingtian appeared close to Di Yong, the Devil Seal tablet soared out of his hand and crashed directly against Di Yong. Chapter 1327. When the Devil Seal tablet encountered a devil cultivator, it would appear as though it was injected with a booster. At this moment, Duan Lingtian merely threw it out, and it was already charging toward Di Yong automatically like a falling meteorite. What an insignificant skill. Upon hearing the sharp sound of wind whistling headed in his direction, Di Yong opened his eyes suddenly and revealed a contemptuous expression. However, in the next instant, he noticed that the stone tablet that was charging at him directly was emitting an aura that made his blood curdled. When the stone tablet was close to him, his soul even began to tremble. Horror immediately dawned on his face when he realized things were not as simple as he had thought. Soul attack. When he looked at the fast approaching stone tablet, his soul was on the verge of crumbling. He narrowed his eyes, and a wave of black energy and airwaves suddenly rushed out of his body. At the same time, a high-pitched noise reverberated in the air. It pierced Wang Yu's ears until blood began to gush out of his ears. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, also felt pain in his eardrums as he began to feel dizzy. It's a dragon's cry. Before Duan Lingtian realized what was happening, Wang Ba's voice sounded in shock. The moment Duan Lingtian heard this, a pang of realization hit him, and he finally realized what was happening. With a glance, he saw De Yong had already disappeared. In his spot was a completely black divine dragon that stretched out over 100 meters long. This divine dragon was no different from the legendary Eastern dragon on Earth where he used to live in his previous life. Its horn was like a deer, and its head was like a camel. Its mouth was like a donkey, and it had eyes like a cow. Its scales were like a fish and mustache like a prawn. Its tummy was like a snake, and its feet were like an eagle. It looked identical to the Eastern dragons. However, this seemed more like a devilified version of an Eastern dragon. Its scales were gleaming black, and its crimson red eyes were emotionless and cold. It was none other than De Yong who had transformed into this black divine dragon. To be more precise, it was De Yong's true form. He's not human. Duan Lingtian widened his eyes in shock. He was not surprised that De Yong was not human, he was more surprised that he was a divine dragon. He could see that De Yong was not a worm dragon. Instead, he was a true divine dragon. Boom, 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 comma. A thunderous sound reverberated in the air. As it turned out, after De Yong had reverted to his true form, the 85 black rays sped up its absorbing speed. In just a blink of an eye, he finished absorbing all of the vital essences from the 85 people. All the 85 people who had their vital essence completely absorbed turned into 85 dried corpses immediately. In the next instant, the 85 dried corpses were blasted apart by the energy impact from the other end of the black ray and turned into dust that scattered and disappeared in the sky. Boom! The Devil Seal tablet fell and crashed on the black divine dragon's head violently with a loud noise. A shrill dragon's cry resonated almost at the same time, deafening the ears with his roar. This time, be it Duan Lingtian or Wang Yu, both were prepared so they did not suffer much impact. He's fine. Horror dawned on Duan Lingtian when he realized the Devil Seal tablet did not suppress his soul even after it had crashed on his head. He was still brimming with energy, and his body only trembled slightly. Seeing how the Devil Seal tablet soared up to the sky and left, the black divine dragon that spiraled as he descended glared viciously at Duan Lingtian with his crimson red eyes. His voice was cold and terrifying when he asked, "Boy, what the hell is this thing?" Just now, he could feel strong suction energy coming from that stone tablet. His soul had almost been sucked out earlier. If his soul was sucked out, he would be done for good. It's a good thing that I reverted to my true form at the critical moment. With the help of the powerful soul defense that's innate to my clan's true form, I managed to block the appalling suction energy the strange stone tablet emitted. The black divine dragon, De Yong, the island master of the Half Moon Island, thought to himself. Boy, you almost spoiled my plan. Although I have no interest in absorbing your vital essence, you'll still have to die today. De Yong glared viciously at Duan Lingtian, the killing intent in his eyes was obvious. If he did not revert to his true form in time, his soul would have been sucked out earlier. If that had happened, not only would he not be able to finish absorbing the 85 people's vital essence, but he might have been killed as well. There was no chance for survival once one's soul was destroyed. You better deal with that thing first before you start yelling about how you're going to kill me, alright? In the face of the murderous De Yong, Duan Lingtian only smiled disdainfully. At the same time, he looked at the void on top of De Yong. De Yong was stunned. Horror dawned on him when he finally realized something was not right. With a lift of his head, he saw the stone tablet that had left earlier was slamming down furiously again. Moreover, he also noticed the feeling the stone tablet gave him this time was even more terrifying than before. It seemed like it was infuriated. A stone tablet could feel infuriated. Right now, even De Yong felt that he might have gone a little crazy. De Yong really had no time to deal with Duan Lingtian at all. This stone that was crashing down from the sky caused his soul to tremble violently again. I feel like even if I have the soul defense that's a natural gift from my true body, it won't be enough to block the suction energy from the stone tablet anymore. A thought rose in De Yong's mind suddenly. The moment this thought arose, he could not suppress it anymore. This stone tablet. Suddenly, De Yong saw the chipped corner on the stone tablet. His eyes flashed momentarily before he fell into a daze. Finally, as though he had recalled something, terror rose from the bottom of his heart. Devil Seal tablet, my lord, It's the Devil Seal tablet. De Jong finally recognized it as the Devil Seal tablet. He did not recognize it earlier because the Devil Seal tablet he had known was not whole. The Devil Seal tablet was originally split into 3 parts. Currently, 2 parts had already been reunited. It would have been whole if not for the 3rd piece. When the pieces are all combined, the Devil Seal tablet could then be truly considered as the super saint weapon of the 10 great saint weapon rankings. Right now, the Devil Seal tablet was still not whole. However, even if it was not whole, it was still not something he could fight against now. After recognizing it as the Devil Seal tablet, De Jong no longer had any intention to fight. There was only one thought in his mind. Flee. Seeing how the black divine dragon that stretched out over 100 meters long trying to flee in the face of the Devil Seal tablet that was crashing down, Duan Lingtian could tell that De Jong had noticed how powerful the tablet was. Or perhaps, De Jong knew about the Devil Seal tablet's power, and he recognized it for what it was. Haha, looks like even God is on my side, boy, go near that dragon. When the Devil Seal tablet seals his soul, I'll be able to take over his body. Wang Ba's hearty laughter filled Duan Lingtian's mind immediately. However, my soul is too weak now. If you activate the Devil Seal tablet, it'll seal me as well. When the Devil Seal tablet suppresses his soul, I'll give you a reminder. You need to retrieve the Devil Seal tablet so that I won't be sealed along with him, Wang Ba said solemnly. Alright, Duan Lingtian responded offhandedly before he snapped to his senses. Not being able to suppress his curiosity, he asked, Bastard, I thought you want the body of a dragon clan's lineal descendant. This guy doesn't seem strong at all. He's not a dragon clan's lineal descendant, right? He's a dragon clan's lineal descendant. Wang Ba snapped before rushing him again, go now. As for the rest, let's talk after I've taken over his body. Go now. Wang Ba's tone was filled with excitement. Anybody could tell that he was excited. Alright, I get it, Duan Lingtian replied. With a raise of his hand, he took out the royal grade spirit archery set again. He pulled the bow before placing the arrow on it. When the bowstring was pulled taut, he let go of his hand. Whoosh, the arrow shot out like a lightning. Duan Lingtian stepped on it just in time before charging straight toward De Jong, who had reverted back to his true form. His speed was getting faster and faster. At the same time, De Jong was trying run away, found that he could not escape the Devil Seal tablet. Once again, the Devil Seal tablet slammed down on his head heavily. A sharp dragon's cry resonated in the air again, followed by another unwilling cry. No, this was also the last word of De Jong in this world. The Devil Seal tablet slammed on his head and the suction energy was even more powerful than before. Although De Jong's innate soul defense was strong, his soul was still sucked out of his body. To be more precise, his dragon soul was sucked out. Whoosh. At the same time, Duan Lingtian charged forward and appeared next to the black divine dragon that was now falling down after it had lost its soul. Ha 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 ha, excited laughter filled Duan Lingtian's mind. The voice was drifting further and further away. Soon after, the laughter had completely disappeared. At the same time, Duan Lingtian could clearly sense that Wang Ba's soul had left his body. He heaved a sigh before he smiled. All this while, he had felt uncomfortable knowing Wang Ba was in his body. He felt a lot better now that he was gone. Soon after, Wang Ba's voice resonated in Duan Lingtian's ears, Boy, retrieve that Devil Seal tablet. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian immediately retrieved the Devil Seal tablet and kept it in his spatial ring to avoid it from harming Wang Ba. After retrieving the Devil Seal tablet, Duan Lingtian looked at the black divine dragon's body that was still falling down from the sky. The completely black dragon scales gleamed coldly in the light. Boy, I'll stay here for a short period of time to adjust to my new body, you don't have to bother with me, Wang Ba said. Duan Lingtian saw the huge body of the black divine dragon that was originally falling down suddenly quivered before disappearing before his eyes and hid behind the mist of the mountains. Duan Lingtian heaved a long sigh of relief. When he recalled the scene earlier, he still felt a little dazed. The fact that De Jong, the island master of the Half Moon Island, was actually a devil cultivator had already taken him by surprise. In the end, he discovered De Jong was not only a devil cultivator, but he was also the dragon clan's lineal descendant. He was actually a black divine dragon. Duan Lingtian, what happened earlier? At some point, Wang Yu had appeared next to Duan Lingtian. His eyes held a trace of confusion. From the beginning until the end, he did not understand what was going on at all. De Jong, the island master of the Half Moon Island, didn't have any intention of selecting a direct disciple. Wait a minute. Where's Shui Nai? When Duan Lingtian thought that everything had been dealt with, his mind jolted. He suddenly remembered Han Shui Nai when he was about to explain everything to Wang Yu. From the moment he had broken out of the illusion, he did not see Han Shui Nai at all. Chapter 1328, Brother Lingtian. When Duan Lingtian was still fretting over Han Shui Nai's safety, a familiar voice resonated from the distance. He instantly heaved a sigh of relief. Shui Nai. The voice accompanied the appearance of a yellow-clad teenage girl. It was none other than Han Shui Nai. Brother Lingtian, what's going on here? I just heard a few loud noises coming from here, Han Shui Nai asked. Shui Nai, where did you go? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. He did not reply her question for the time being. I encountered an illusion earlier. It wasn't a big deal. But I was curious, so I chased after the enemies in the illusion. Han Shui Nai recounted her experience in a single breath. After I left the illusion, I noticed everyone had disappeared. It must be because I strayed too far from everyone. I searched for a very long time and in the end, I only rushed here when I heard noises in this direction. Did you say the enemies you met in the illusion were trying to escape? Duan Lingtian asked. Yes. Han Shui Nai nodded. It looks like somebody purposely lured you away, Duan Lingtian responded. There were a total of 88 people including him. Only Han Shui Nai had left. Moreover, it was the illusion from the illusory formation that lured her away. It was obvious somebody had intentionally lured her away. It must be De Yong. However, he actually gave up on absorbing Shui Nai's vital essence. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he frowned. However, his face eased up again quickly. It must be due to the incident 2 weeks ago. He must have known that it was a Tao talisman. And from there, he must have deduced that Shui Nai's background is not simple, so he didn't dare to do anything to her. 2 weeks ago, Han Shui Nai had attacked and used the Tao talisman to annihilate the first island master of Coral Island. This incident had shocked the entire Half Moon Island. As the island master of the Half Moon Island, De Yong must have learned about it. The Tao talisman could only be drawn by a Tao cultivator at the Saint Rudiment stage or above. Moreover, it was not something that could be drawn by just any Tao cultivator. A person who could take out a Tao talisman either had a strong powerhouse or force supporting him from behind. No matter which one it is, De Yong still didn't dare to risk picking a fight with Shui Nai. Duan Lingtian easily came to this conclusion. Luring me away intentionally, Han Shui Nai was perplexed. Brother Lingtian, what are you talking about? Why would someone deliberately lure me away? Shui Nai, Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and told her, there were a total of 88 people who came in here, including you, Wang Yu, and I. However, only 3 of us survived. What? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, even Han Shui Nai, who had seen much in life, could not help but feel horrified. 85 people were gone. How long had it been? Brother Lingtian, what happened? Han Shui Nai asked. Her face became more solemn as time passed. Previously, De Yong, the island master of the Half Moon Island, appeared as soon as I broke the illusion, Duan Lingtian explained with a serious face. The moment he appeared, black mist rose from his body and 86 black rays stretched out from his body before it connected with the 86 people. The 86 people were caught in the illusion, so they did not feel anything at all. Then, Duan Lingtian recounted the entire incident to her, including how Wang Yu managed to wake up in time and escaped death. How lucky of you! After glancing at Wang Yu, Han Shui Nai looked at Duan Lingtian again. Brother Lingtian, that De Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, was actually a devil cultivator. Do you know about devil cultivators? Han Shui Nai asked. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. What's a devil cultivator? Wang Yu could not help but ask. His face was a little pale. This was not because of Han Shui Nai's words. It was because of his brothers from the same master. His brothers from the same master were still alive and lively when they entered, but they were all gone in just a moment. A devil cultivator is a human or a demon who would do anything just to raise their strength. Absorbing one's vital essence is one of the techniques that devil cultivators have. There are many devil cultivators who would eat newborn babies who are not even a month old alive and devour the congenital qi inside the babies to cultivate, Han Shui Nai roughly explained. Just this rough explanation alone was enough to shock Wang Yu. Eating newborn babies alive. Duan Lingtian's face turned grave as well. Although he had heard about all these from Wang Ba before, his heart was still filled with rage when heard Shui Nai mentioning it again. Some of the devil cultivators' actions were really like animals. No, they were worse than animals. Brother Ling Tian, then what happened next? That De Yong is so nice, he actually let two of you go. Han Shuinai asked. That De Yong is killed by Duan Ling Tian, Wang Yu answered before Duan Ling Tian even managed to answer. K killed. Upon hearing Wang Yu's words, Han Shuinai was stunned. When she looked at Duan Ling Tian again, her eyes were shining with disbelief. Brother Ling Tian, you've snatched back the Devilseal tablet? She asked using her voice transmission. This was the only feasible explanation she could think of. According to Duan Ling Tian's words, she could tell De Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, was at least at the mortal shedding stage. However, someone like him had died in Duan Ling Tian's hand. If a person used ordinary logic to deduce this, he would not be able to understand this at all. At this moment, she suddenly remembered the Devilseal tablet that Zhou Yi, Martial Emperor Shiqi's direct disciple, had stolen away. She had found out about this when she went to the Lost Stone Forest with Little White. Yes, Duan Ling Tian nodded before replying through voice transmission. Before you arrived on Hidden Fog Island, I've already killed Zhou Yi and snatched the Devilseal tablet back. Duan Ling Tian was not surprised Han Shuinai knew about the Devilseal tablet. After all, she was from the Dao Martial Saint land, and the Devilseal tablet was a super saint weapon in the 10 great saint weapon rankings. It was something that was well known in the entire Dao Martial Saint land. He was also not surprised she knew the Devilseal tablet was in his hand. After all, Martial Emperor Shiqi from Lost Stone Forest had mentioned that he had disclosed the incident regarding the Devilseal tablet to Shuinai. Although Martial Emperor Shiqi had no idea that it was the Devilseal tablet, with Shuinai's intelligence, it would not be difficult for her to figure things out. He was not surprised as well when she asked if he had snatched the Devilseal tablet back. With his current strength, he would not be able to kill a powerful devil cultivator at the mortal shedding stage unless he used the Devilseal tablet. Brother Ling Tian, you must take care of the Devilseal tablet properly. It's still okay here on Cloud Continent and the overseas Saint Islands. If you're in the Dao Martial Saint land, and somebody finds out that the Devilseal tablet is in your possession, many people will stop at nothing just to get their hands on it. Han Shuinai continued to remind him using voice transmission as her face turned even graver. I understand. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He had mentally prepared himself long ago regarding the things Shuinai told him. Once he arrived at the Dao Martial Saint land, he would not activate the Devilseal tablet unless he could guarantee the news of the Devilseal tablet would not leak out or if he was in a life or death situation. Brother Ling Tian, should we kill this Wang Yu? After all, he has seen how you killed De Yong using that Devilseal tablet. Han Shuinai suggested using voice transmission. No, Duan Ling Tian shook his head before answering through voice transmission. He doesn't know about the Devilseal tablet, nor does he know I only managed to kill De Yong because of the Devilseal tablet. He probably thinks I've hidden my true cultivation base. In that case, I'll ask him to swear using the 9 heavenly tribulation that he won't disclose the incident of you killing De Yong to anyone else, Han Shuinai said. Before Duan Ling Tian could react in time, she had already forced Wang Yu to swear using the 9 heavenly tribulation that he would not disclose the incident of Duan Ling Tian killing De Yong to anybody. Wang Yu had already felt a little fearful of Han Shuinai, who had killed the powerful first island master of Coral Island, and it could be said that Duan Ling Tian had saved his life for killing De Yong, so he had no intention of harming Duan Ling Tian at all. Due to this reason, he agreed to take an oath not to tell anyone about Duan Ling Tian killing De Yong. Duan Ling Tian was still little dazed after he had recounted everything to Han Shuinai. He did not expect the island master of Half Moon Island, the strongest island among the 4 great overseas Saint Islands, would actually die in his hand. In fact, he was someone at the mortal shedding stage and was much more powerful compared to someone at the peak of the Martial Emperor stage. Moreover, his true form was actually a divine dragon. If it wasn't for the Devilseal tablet, I wouldn't even be able to inflict any damage on De Yong even if there was 1,000 of me or 10,000 of me. Duan Ling Tian understood this very well. The reason he could kill De Yong and seal his soul was all thanks to the Devilseal tablet in his hand. Naturally, De Yong being a devil cultivator was a huge contributing factor as well. If he was not a devil cultivator but a normal martial or Dao cultivator, the Devilseal tablet would have no effect on him at all. At that time, Duan Ling Tian would not have been able to kill him. But, if De Yong was not a devil cultivator, this incident wouldn't have happened. The moment he thought of this, he shook his head. It seemed like the incident today was destined to happen. Perhaps, even after his soul was devoured and sealed, De Jong still would not be able to understand why he was so unlucky to have met with the mortal enemy of all devil cultivators, the Devil Seal Tablet. If he had known Duan Lingtian had the Devil Seal Tablet in his possession, he would have long lured Duan Lingtian away just like how he had lured Han Shuinai away. Shuinai, what's the highest level cultivation base of a devil cultivator that I can seal using this Devil Seal Tablet? Duan Lingtian asked using his voice transmission. Brother Lingtian, you're at the innate stage now so you can seal devil cultivators at any level of the mortal shedding stage, Han Shuinai said. Then how about the devil cultivators at the Saint Rudiment stage? Duan Lingtian asked. With your current cultivation base, the most you can do is invoke fear in the Saint Rudiment stage devil cultivator. Even if you activate the Devil Seal Tablet, Brother Lingtian, you won't be able to seal him at all, Han Shuinai replied. Upon hearing Han Shuinai's words, Duan Lingtian was slightly disappointed. By the time I've cultivated to the peak of the Martial Emperor stage, that's also the peak of the innate stage, will I be able to deal with a Saint Rudiment stage devil cultivator with the Devil Seal Tablet? Duan Lingtian asked again. No, Han Shuinai shook her head. The force of the Devil Seal Tablet mainly relies on the stage of your cultivation base and not the cultivation base per se. I'm sure you feel it as well when you used it, Brother Lingtian. It actually doesn't rely much on your origin energy. Chapter 1329. Duan Lingtian gained a deeper understanding of the Devil Seal Tablet thanks to Han Shuinai. Even if I've just broken through to the innate stage, I can also seal Immortal shedding stage devil cultivator using the Devil Seal Tablet. The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he found out about this. A person who had just broken through to the innate stage, also known as the innate spirit refinery stage, was equivalent to the void prying stage on Cloud Continent. A martial artist at the void prying stage could kill someone like De Jong using the Devil Seal Tablet. The Devil Seal Tablet is only one of the 10 great super saint weapons in the 10 great saint weapon rankings, and it's already so heaven-defying. The other 9 super saint weapons that share the same fame must be more or less the same as well. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he was overwhelmed with shock. Naturally, he also desired the other 9 super saint weapons ranked in the 10 great saint weapon rankings. How great would it be if I managed to get my hands on another one? Duan Lingtian was lost in his daydream. Duan Lingtian, that demon beast that De Jong transformed into earlier, looked a little like the legendary divine dragons. Do you think legendary divine dragons really exist? Wang Yu asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Before Duan Lingtian could reply, Han Shuinai looked at Wang Yu in shock as she asked, Dragon? You mean, De Jong is not human? She did not hear about this when Duan Lingtian was recounting the incident. He had only told her about the things De Jong had done. Yeah, he's not a human, Duan Lingtian answered Han Shuinai before looking at Wang Yu. His true form was indeed a divine dragon. A genuine divine dragon. His heart was in turmoil as well when he reached the end of his sentence. Duan Lingtian's sentiment toward the divine dragon was kind of different. On Earth, where he spent his previous life, dragons were a spiritual symbol in his hometown, Wa. It represented the few billions of his fellow countrymen from the nation Wa. On Earth, the people from the nation Wa were also called the descendants of the dragon. Naturally, the dragons that signified the Huas were ancient legendary Eastern dragons. It was different from the dragons in the Western countries. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, the winged dragons in the eyes of the Western countries were just some huge bats. It could not be compared to the legendary Eastern dragons of his homeland at all. Moreover, although the technique, 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, he cultivated in this life did not have a direct connection to the dragons, it was still indirectly connected to them. When Wang Yu heard Duan Lingtian's words, he was horrified and overwhelmed with shock. Duan Lingtian looked at Han Shuinai and asked, Shuinai, does the Dao Martial Saint Land have dragon clans? Brother Lingtian, how do you know about the dragon clans? Han Shuinai was slightly astonished. In fact, not everybody in the Dao Martial Saint Land knew about the dragon clans. This was because the divine dragons of the dragon clans usually maintained a low profile, so not many people knew about their existence. Naturally, this did not mean the divine dragons of the dragon clans had completely severed its relation with the outer world. On the contrary, once members of dragon clans had reached maturity, they would be driven out of their clans so that they could train. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, any random person brushing past you on the bustling street might just be a member of the dragon clans. Actually, if the dragon clans members did not take the initiative to reveal their true forms, no one would be the wiser. The dragon clans had their own rules too. They were not allowed to reveal their true forms unless they encountered a life or death situation, and no other members from their clans could come to their rescue. Members of the dragon clans who dared to disobey the rule would be captured by an enforcement team and imprisoned in the Dragon Prison Valley for the rest of their lives. Due to this reason, very few members of the dragon clan would dare to reveal their true forms. Naturally, there were also a few members from the dragon clans who had been imprisoned in the Dragon Prison Valley for the rest of their lives. They were fittingly punished for revealing their identities. I heard about it from a devil cultivator, Duan Lingtian said. Devil cultivator. Han Shuinai frowned. Brother Lingtian, you're acquainted with a devil cultivator. Duan Lingtian nodded before telling Han Shuinai about Wang Ba and how he had taken over Di Yong's divine dragon's body. A devil cultivator from the Devilseal Tablet. A saint stage powerhouse who once opened up 59 saint veins. Han Shuinai said guardedly, Brother Lingtian, there are no devil cultivators who are simple. Since Wang Ba's remnant soul has already left your body, don't get too close to him in the future. As someone from the Dao Martial Saint Land, Han Shuinai, naturally, knew what the words, devil cultivators, meant and all the connotations it carried. Although not all devil cultivators were evil, 9 out of 10 evil people in the Dao Martial Saint Land were devil cultivators. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, devil cultivators were the most hated. Naturally, this only applied to weak devil cultivators. If those powerful devil cultivators walked on a bustling street, nobody would dare to say anything bad, let alone pick a fight. The Dao Martial Saint Land was a place where the law of the jungle applied. It was a world where the strong ruled. All right, Duan Lingtian nodded, but he was not worried at all. He had the Devilseal Tablet in his hand, so was there a need for him to be afraid of devil cultivators? If Wang Ba's soul was hidden in someone's body, the Devilseal Tablet might not be effective against him. However, now that he had taken over a body, the Devilseal Tablet would be able to seal him. Brother Lingtian, earlier you said Di Yong's true form was a black divine dragon, right? Han Shuinai asked when she thought about it again. Duan Lingtian nodded his head. Looks like Di Yong was a devil dragon, Han Shuinai said in disbelief. How can devil dragons still exist? Moreover, this one actually reached the mortal shedding stage in such an environment. There was a hint of dread on her face when she reached the end of her sentence. Devil dragon. Duan Lingtian was stunned. Shuinai, what's the difference between a devil dragon and a divine dragon? There's essentially no difference since devil dragons are also divine dragons. However, devil dragons can be considered as variants among divine dragons. It's a variant divine dragon, Han Shuinai continued. All devil dragons are divine dragons that have divilified. This type of divine dragons is not accepted in dragon clans. It would be killed the moment it's born. Killed? Duan Lingtian was taken aback. There's a rumor in the Dao Martial Saint Land saying that the first devil dragon was born a long time ago. When this devil dragon was born, it almost caused the entire dragon clan to be annihilated. Due to this reason, that dragon clan had to recuperate for several tens of thousands of years before they finally recovered, Han Shuinai said. A devil dragon almost caused the dragon clan to be annihilated. It's so strong. Duan Lingtian was shocked. It was not because it was strong. On the day of its birth, it secretly divilified other members of the dragon clan, Han Shuinai said in one breath. It said that it was because of him divilifying almost half of the members of the dragon clan that it created unprecedented civil strife in the dragon clan. That civil strife almost wiped out all of the dragon clans in the Dao Martial Saint Land. It was only until several tens of thousands of years later that they finally emerged again. Due to this reason, devil dragons born in dragon clans are instantly killed. Duan Lingtian asked again. Yes, Han Shuinai nodded. Using the past as a lesson, dragon clans had set a new rule that all devil dragons born in the clans will be immediately killed to avoid unnecessary trouble in the future. Naturally, devil dragons are rare. It's said that there might not even be one devil dragon being born every 1,000 years, Han Shuinai explained. Just like the saying goes, once bitten, twice shy. Duan Lingtian sighed. Brother Lingtian, how many claws did the devil dragon you saw earlier possessed? Han Shuinai asked suddenly as though she had recalled something. 5, Duan Lingtian answered. 5, Han Shuinai was bewildered when she heard Duan Lingtian's words. Brother Lingtian, are you sure? Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded. My goodness, that devil dragon is actually the lineal descendant of the dragon clan. Han Shuinai muttered after she gasped. Wang Ba did say he was the lineal descendant of the dragon clan as well. Shui Nai, you only heard the number of claws he had on his paws, how do you know he's the lineal descendant of the dragon clan? Duan Lingtian was curious. Brother Lingtian, the dragon clans divide its members into 3 categories according to the purity of their blood. The true form of an ordinary member in the dragon clan is a 3-clawed divine dragon. Their strength is ordinary as well. Naturally, they are only ordinary in comparison to the other members in the dragon clan. Han Shui Nai explained patiently. Above the 3-clawed divine dragons are the 4-clawed divine dragons. The 4-clawed divine dragons are usually those who hold important positions in the dragon clan. For instance, the elders and the overseers are all 4-clawed divine dragons. Above the 4-clawed divine dragons are the 5-clawed divine dragons. They hold the highest position in the dragon clans. The 5-clawed divine dragons are the lineal descendants of the dragon clan. All of the clan leaders of dragon clans are 5-clawed divine dragons. Only a 5-clawed divine dragon is able to inspire fear in the members of the dragon clans. Han Shui Nai continued speaking. According to the rumor I heard, there are only 9 5-clawed divine dragons in a dragon clan. The number will never change. A new 5-clawed divine dragon will only be born when an old 5-clawed divine dragon has died or has undergone transcendence. A 5-clawed devil dragon is very rare even in 10,000 years. Han Shui Nai continued. It's said that the first devil dragon that appeared in the history of the dragon clans was a 5-clawed devil dragon. It was a lineal descendant of the dragon clan. Duan Lingtian did not expect that members of the dragon clans would be categorized this way: 3-clawed divine dragons, 4-clawed divine dragons, and 5-clawed divine dragons. This was his first time seeing a true divine dragon, and this dragon was actually a 5-clawed divine dragon. Moreover, it was a 5-clawed devil dragon. According to Shui Nai, 5-clawed devil dragons were extremely rare. That's weird. Since the dragon clans already have a rule stating that all devil dragons have to be killed in its infancy, why was Di Yang alive? Moreover, he actually left the Dao Martial Saint land and came here. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel confused as he mused over his luck and Di Yang's identity. Chapter 1330. I've no idea. Perhaps some dragon clan's lineal descendants found it a waste to kill him and pitied him. Han Shui Nai speculated. It's also possible they sent him out of the Dao Martial Saint land because of that. Otherwise, let alone a juvenile 5-clawed divine dragon, even if it was an adult 5-clawed divine dragon, the dragon clan would not allow it to stray so far away. A 5-clawed divine dragon inherited the bloodline of the dragon clan, and it was the root of the dragon clan. If it was not for the fact that the 5-clawed devil dragon might bring calamity upon them, the dragon clans would not have abandoned it. Juvenile. Shui Nai, you mean, Di Yang, the island master of the Half-Moon Island, was just a juvenile 5-clawed divine dragon. Duan Lingtian was baffled. His body is slightly over 100 meters long, he was 50 years old at the most. 5-clawed divine dragons only reach adulthood at the age of 100. At that time, its true form can reach up to 300 meters long, Han Shui Nai replied. Adulthood is at 100 years old. A twitch could be seen on the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth. The dragon clans are different from humans. When they're born, they already have a lifespan of 1,000 years before they even start cultivating. Once they begin to cultivate and make a breakthrough to the mortal shedding stage, their lifespan can increase up to 3,000 years, Han Shui Nai continued. Once they've made a breakthrough to the Saint Rudiment stage, their lifespan goes up to 10,000 years. They'll have eternal life once they enter the Saint stage. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian was immediately rendered speechless. This was even more heaven-defying than the other clans. Humans, for example, before they reached the martial emperor stage, they would a lifespan of 100 years. When they entered the martial emperor stage, they had a lifespan of 200 years. They could not be compared to the dragon clans at all. The dragon clans are like God's favorite children, Duan Lingtian mused. You can say that they're God's favorite children, it's a good thing their reproductive capacity is low. Otherwise, this world would have been ruled by them since a long time, Han Shui Nai chimed in. Duan Lingtian strongly agreed with her. If members of the powerful dragon clans could reach the number of humans, let alone the Dao Martial Saint land, even the 3 great mortal continents would have been ruled by them. At that time, the other clans and tribes could only submit to the destiny of becoming their slaves. The exchange between Duan Lingtian and Han Shui Nai had happened through voice transmission. Due to this reason, Wang Yu did not hear a word at all from the beginning until the end. Duan Lingtian, we should. Wang Yu looked at Duan Lingtian. He was about to say something when he stopped abruptly. His eyes narrowed, and his face turned pale immediately. It was as though somebody had a tight grip on his throat. At the same time, Duan Lingtian and Han Shuinai turned around to look behind him. A gigantic figure soared up into the sky. The twisting body that was over 100 meters long looked very majestic. It was a 5-clawed divine dragon. However, unlike an ordinary divine dragon, its body was completely black, and the black scales on its body gleamed coldly in the light. Its crimson-red eyes narrowed and were staring fixedly at Duan Lingtian. Boy, you're really my lucky star. Not only did you find the body of a dragon clan's lineal descendant for me, but it's also a 5-clawed devil dragon on top of that. Devil Dao is the nature of this 5-clawed devil dragon, and it's the best body for a devil cultivator. The 5-clawed devil dragon spoke like a human in an excited tone. It was Wang Ba, the devil cultivator who had taken over the devil dragon, who was talking. Previously, Wang Ba had asked Duan Lingtian to find the body of a dragon clan's lineal descendant for him. However, he did not really mean what he had said. In the Dao Martial Saint Land, there was no doubt that the body of a dragon was one of a kind among all tribes and clans, particularly the body of a 5-clawed divine dragon since it was extremely powerful. Wang Ba did not expect he would encounter the body of a 5-clawed divine dragon. Heck, it was even a 5-clawed devil dragon on top of that, when he followed Duan Lingtian. The 5-clawed devil dragon was born divilified, and the art it practiced was the devil cultivation Dao. To Wang Ba, who was once a saint-stage devil cultivator, the body of the 5-clawed devil dragon was the best body in the entire world. It was the most suitable for him. Bastard, have you completely taken over his body? Duan Lingtian asked. Bastard. The moment this word left Duan Lingtian's mouth, be it Han Shuinai or Wang Yu, who was so scared that he stood rooted to his spot at the side, a twitch appeared on the corner of their mouths at once. Han Shuinai burst out laughing immediately before she looked at Duan Lingtian and asked, Brother Lingtian, didn't you say his name is Wang Ba? Why did you call him, bastard? Isn't it the same? Duan Lingtian asked innocently. Same. Upon seeing how innocent Duan Lingtian looked, Han Shuinai could no longer hold back and laughed out loud. Was bastard not the same as a turtle? Humph. Boy, I've decided, from today onward, my name is no longer Wang Ba. The 5-clawed devil dragon circled the air, and his crimson red eyes were filled with bloody vigor. His voice was sonorous and deafening. No longer Wang Ba, then what are you going to call yourself? Duan Lingtian asked. Isn't this guy's original name Di Yong? Well, I think the name sounds quite good. From today onward, my name will be Di Yong, the 5-clawed devil dragon said in a human-like manner. Di Yong, this name does indeed sound quite good. It's much better than your previous name. Han Shuinai laughed. Of course, if this name is not nice, then I'll change it again. Girl, you really have good taste. The 5-clawed devil dragon lifted its dragon head proudly and looked at Duan Lingtian. Boy, remember, call me Di Yong next time. You can call me Lord Di Yong or Senior Di Yong. Duan Lingtian ignored him and asked him nonchalantly, why aren't you transforming? Humph, I've yet to fully take over his body. Even if the 5-clawed devil dragon's body has lost its soul, I'll still need to spend some time before I can fully take it over. The reason I came out is to tell you I'll need a bit more time to completely take over this body, Di Yong, formerly known as Wang Ba, replied. This Di Yong was no longer the previous Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island. Instead, it was the devil cultivator Wang Ba who came from the Dao Martial Saint Land and had changed his name to Di Yong. The moment he finished his words, without even waiting for Duan Lingtian to respond, the over 100 meters long body trembled before it hid in the mists of the mountain and disappeared before the eyes of Duan Lingtian and the other two people. Duan Lingtian and Han Shuinai were calm. On the other hand, Wang Yu was in utter shock. He did not regain his senses for a very long time. Was Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, not already dead? Why did he suddenly come back to live? He had no explanation for it at all. At this moment, Duan Lingtian and Han Shuinai descended from the sky and looked for the 85 dried corpses whose vital essence had been completely absorbed by Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, before taking the spatial rings from them. They did not forget to take the profundity fragments as well. Although the profundity fragments were not useful to them, they could be used by the people in Lingtian sect. In fact, some of the 85 dried corpses were at the martial emperor stage, so they had emperor stage profundity fragments in their bodies. If you guys didn't come to Half Moon Island, you wouldn't have died, what a pity. It's better to become an ordinary person if there's a next life. Duan Lingtian sighed. At the same time, he stomped on the ground. Instantly, the ground shook and horrendous cracks began to appear like a spider web under the 85 dried corpses. In the next second, all the dried corpses fell into the cracks. After Duan Lingtian made his move again, they were buried deep in the ground. They could finally rest in peace now. Shui Nai, let's go. Duan Lingtian motioned to Han Shui Nai and Wang Yu before he went outside. 88 people entered, but only 3 came out. Duan Lingtian felt a chill in his heart. Wang Yu still did not understand what he had witnessed earlier. Unable to suppress the question boiling up from his chest, he asked Duan Lingtian, earlier. Before he could finish asking his question, Duan Lingtian had already cut him off and said, I know what you want to ask. Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, is really dead. He's been killed by me. As for the dragon earlier, that's only Di Yong's body. My friend has taken over his body. Soul hijacking. Wang Yu was shocked. You know about soul hijacking too? Duan Lingtian was taken aback as well. Soul hijacking was when a soul took over another body. Usually, only a martial emperor whose soul had been through a special training could do this. An ordinary martial emperor whose soul had not been trained would not be able to use soul hijacking even if he was already at the peak of the martial emperor stage. On the contrary, even if one was only at the first level martial emperor stage, one would be able to use soul hijacking as long one's soul had been trained. It was similar to the rebirth martial emperor. At that time, the rebirth martial emperor wanted to snatch Duan Lingtian's body and begin his journey of cultivation for his third reincarnation. Unfortunately, before he could hijack Duan Lingtian's body, Lingtian's soul that originated from Earth had already replaced Duan Lingtian's soul in his body. After rebirth martial emperor discovered this, he was furious and tried to attack Lingtian's soul. Unfortunately, he failed, and it resulted in his soul being shattered into dust. The 3 lives rebirth technique the rebirth martial emperor cultivated is mainly to refine his soul. If it was me, I don't think I'll be able to carry out soul hijacking even if I've already made a breakthrough to the peak of the martial emperor stage. Duan Lingtian was very clear about this. I've read the record about soul hijacking in an ancient book before. It's said that a long time ago on Cloud Continent, some martial emperors would train their souls specifically so that they can use soul hijacking right before they die in order to take over someone else's body to regain a new lease on life, Wang Yu answered. Unfortunately, the number of those who actually succeed is very small. If one succeeds in carrying out soul hijacking, then it's still okay. However, if one fails, one's soul would shatter into dust instantly. Wang Yu sighed. Naturally, Duan Lingtian already knew about all this. It was precisely because of this that the rebirth martial emperor needed to find the best opportunity before he could hijack Duan Lingtian's body. Otherwise, his soul was in risk of shattering into pieces. Unfortunately, he had encountered Lingtian's soul that came from Earth. As a result, his soul had shattered into dust. However, the rebirth martial emperor was still the rebirth martial emperor. His soul that had undergone a lot of training was very powerful. Even when his soul had already shattered, all his memory was left behind for Lingtian, who was also the current Duan Lingtian. Chapter 1331. Soul hijacking is extremely dangerous. Even those saint stage powerhouses aren't 100% confident they'll succeed except for those at the very top. Han Shui snorted. Well, I don't think those at the top among the saint stage powerhouses would need to carry out soul hijacking anyway, Duan Lingtian chimed in. That's right. Soul hijacking doesn't appeal much to saint stage powerhouses. Han Shui nodded. An ordinary person would only risk their lives to use soul hijacking when they were close to their death. Since they were about to die anyway, they might as well put up a fight. As for those at the top among the saint stage powerhouses, they had eternal lives, so there was no need for them to use soul hijacking at all, unless they were devil cultivators and had been sealed by the devil seal tablet and lost their bodies. Just like Wang Ba, the current Di Yong. Saint stage powerhouses. Wang Yu did not understand the saint stage powerhouses are something that Duan Lingtian and Han Shui spoke about. His face was filled with confusion. You can go ask your master about things regarding saint stage powerhouses. Han Shui cast a glance at Wang Yu before saying nonchalantly, however, other than this, I hope you won't tell him about the incident that had taken place earlier. It would not benefit either of you if you do that. This issue was very serious since it was related to the five-clawed devil dragon. Han Shuinai knew this very well. Although the five-clawed devil dragon was abandoned by the dragon clans, the fact that he did not die during his infancy meant that someone among the dragon clan's lineal descendants had deliberately concealed his existence. That dragon clan's lineal descendant would have to have a high position too. If it found out the five-clawed devil dragon had already died, and his body had been seized, one could easily imagine how furious it would be. It was definitely an adult five-clawed divine dragon. At the very least, it must be at the saint stage, and it could do a lot of damage if it was infuriated. Soon after, Han Shuinai shared her worries with Duan Lingtian. This matter is indeed a little troublesome, we must think of a surefire plan to deal with this. It's no joke when an adult five-clawed divine dragon is infuriated. Duan Lingtian ransacked his mind continuously, trying to find a solution for the matter. He very quickly thought of an idea. The moment he told Han Shuinai, she agreed immediately. This idea sounds good. With this, we won't have to fear that we'll infuriate the adult five-clawed divine dragon. Although the force behind Han Shuinai was quite a powerful force in the Dao Martial Saint Land, they also would not dare to directly clash with the dragon clans. Killing a five-clawed divine dragon was not difficult for the force behind Han Shuinai, but the problem was killing a five-clawed divine dragon would also enrage the entire dragon clan. The dragon clan's protectiveness over their own kind was well known among the saint stage powerhouses in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Outside of the deep mountains that were covered with clouds and mist, 3 overseas Saint Islands people hovered in the air as they waited quietly. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were hovering at the side with their eyes closed as they tried to attain mental composure. Suddenly, they opened their eyes as though they had noticed something. With just a glance, they saw 3 figures gradually appearing from behind the clouds and mists of the deep mountains. As the figures emerged, the identities of these people became apparent right away. The 2 of them, how's this possible? The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island exchanged glances with each other. All of them could see the disbelief in each other's eyes. They did not find it strange that Han Shuinai survived. After all, the island master had said they could not do anything to this teenage girl. However, the fact that the other 2 people had also made it out alive filled them with disbelief. By right, these 2 people should have had their vital essence completely absorbed by the island master and become dried corpses. Something was fishy here. Taking a deep breath, the 3 of them moved in unison and flew toward the 3 people who had just come out. The 3 people who came out were none other than Duan Lingtian, Han Shuinai, and Wang Yu. The moment they came out, they immediately saw the people from Hidden Fog Island coming forward to welcome them under the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, Tang Zhen's lead. How's it? Tang Zhen's eyes lit up, and his eyes were filled with anticipation when he looked at Han Shuinai. He had full confidence in Han Shuinai. That day, Han Shuinai had killed the strongest person in the Coral Island martial competition with just a raise of her hand. Her strength was even stronger than Duan Lingtian. Ever since then, compared to Duan Lingtian who had obtained first place in the Hidden Fog martial competition, he had higher expectations for Han Shuinai. Han Shuinai shook her head. Tang Zhen was shocked, and he turned to look at Duan Lingtian and Wang Yu as well. Both of them were shaking their heads too. What's going on? Don't tell me, none of you were chosen by Lord Deyong. Tang Zhen asked with a disappointed look on his face. The conditions that Lord Deyong set in choosing his direct disciple are just too strict, just 1 round, and we were already disqualified. Wang Yu smiled wryly. At the same time, he returned to stand next to Martial Emperor Qingzan. There was a hint of bitterness in the depth of his eyes. His few brothers from the same master, the brothers he had spent so many years together with, would remain in Half Moon Island forever. Worse of all, although he knew the cause of their deaths, he could not say anything at all. Otherwise, not only him, even his master, Martial Emperor Qingzan, would be pulled into this mess as well. He could choose to ignore Duan Lingtian's words, but he had no choice other than to believe Han Shuinai's words. Although Han Shuinai did not tell him the real reason, he did not dare to take the risk at all. Brother Lingtian, you and Miss Shuinai are also disqualified. Martial Emperor Yang Wei asked in disbelief. Actually, it was not only him, even the group of people, including Martial Emperor Qingzan, had an expression of disbelief on their faces. Even she was disqualified, who else will be able to become the direct disciple of the island master of Half Moon Island? All of them had witnessed Han Shuinai's strength before. Casting aside the incident of when she killed the first island master of Coral Island with external force, the fact that she was able to kill the strongest person in the Coral Island martial competition with just one blow was enough to show that her strength had definitely surpassed the more than 90 people who came from the 3 great overseas Saint Islands. Looks like our Heaven Reef Island still has hope. The first island master of Heaven Reef Island burst out laughing. Among the 85 people who have still yet to come out, the strongest person must be the champion of our Heaven Reef Island martial competition. That's right. It looks like Lord De Jong doesn't only look at strength alone when he selects his direct disciple, the Heaven Reef Island's elder who came to join in the fun chimed in. Upon hearing the laughter from the first island master of Heaven Reef Island, Duan Ling Tian glanced at him indifferently and thought to himself, if he knows all 30 people from the Heaven Reef Island have already died, would he still be able to laugh out loud like that? What happened actually? The 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island kept looking at Duan Ling Tian and Wang Yu. They really did not understand how these two managed to survive. 3 vice island masters. At this moment, a voice entered their ears and caused them to shudder. All the same, they looked at the purple figure standing in the distance. The owner of the voice transmission was none other than Duan Ling Tian. Lord De Jong has already successfully absorbed the vital essence of the other 85 people. He told me to inform 3 of you that he'll be going into closed-door cultivation in the mountains for a while, Duan Ling Tian continued to say. Upon hearing this, they stared at Duan Ling Tian as though they had just seen a ghost. He actually knew about De Jong, their island master of Half Moon Island, absorbing vital essence. Why, are the 3 of you shocked? Duan Ling Tian continued saying in one breath, honestly, today was quite shocking. Me and Wang Yu's vital essence had almost been completely absorbed by Island Master De Jong and we almost became dried corpses. Fortunately, Shui Nai appeared in time and rescued the 2 of us. For the sake of Shui Nai, Island Master De Jong decided to spare me and Wang Yu's lives. However, he made us promise to not disclose the fact that he's absorbing vital essence. I see. Upon hearing this, the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island looked at Han Shui Nai and finally understood what had happened. They did not suspect Duan Ling Tian's words at all. If that was not the case, they believed Duan Ling Tian and Wang Yu would not have made it out alive. In fact, De Jong, their island master of Half Moon Island, was even more powerful than someone at the peak of the martial emperor stage. Although the 3 of them were already at the peak of the martial emperor stage, they would still be unable to defeat De Jong, the island master of Half Moon Island, even if they joined forces. As for what happens next, the 3 of us have no plans to interfere at all. Island Master De Jong asked the 3 of you to clean up the mess. Duan Ling Tian's voice transmission entered the ears of the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island again. The 3 of them nodded. Just like this, the matter was solved. The 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island did not know their island master of Half Moon Island, De Jong, had actually been killed, and his body had been taken over by another person. They did not doubt Duan Ling Tian's words at all. This was because they had blindly trusted De Jong's strength. 88 people from the 3 great overseas Saint Islands entered the deep mountain, but only 3 people made it out alive. This, no doubt, had raised a huge commotion. The first island masters of the 3 great overseas Saint Islands wanted an explanation from the Half Moon Island. However, in the end, in the face of the powerful Half Moon Island, they could only swallow their fury. The incident of the island master of Half Moon Island recruiting a direct disciple finally came to an end. The people of the 3 great overseas Saint Islands began to leave one by one. However, Duan Ling Tian and the others did not follow Tang Zhen, the first island master of Hidden Fog Island, back. They stayed behind for the time being. Yang Wei brought the people from Lingzan Peak back together with Tang Zhen. Wang Yu had also left together with Martial Emperor Qingzan. To him, things were already settled. The things he wanted to do next was to forget everything that had taken place here and act like all of these did not happen. However, to Duan Ling Tian, this matter had not been resolved yet. Right now, I only have to wait for him to take over De Jong's body completely and become the island master of Half Moon Island, Duan Ling Tian muttered. In the next period of time, Duan Ling Tian did not stay idle as well. Other than accompanying the 2 girls and sometimes playing with the 3 little fellows, he had used the remaining time to cultivate. Han Shui Nai was busy cultivating as well. She was trying to enter the mortal shedding stage. Currently, she was just a step away from the mortal shedding stage. Time continued to fly. In just a blink of an eye, 6 months had gone by. Today, Duan Ling Tian was alone. He was holding onto a saint stone as he hovered cross-legged above the calm sea, cultivating a mental cultivation technique, the divine dragon form of the 9 dragons war sovereign technique. His cultivation base kept increasing as time went by. Whoosh! Suddenly, an ancient figure appeared in the sky. The uninvited guest was an old man. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was twisted with hate. Chapter 1332. After the old man appeared, without even so much as a greeting to Duan Lingtian, he instantly pounced forward without saying a word. His movement was ferocious and it was obvious that he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian in a single blow. There was a 7-foot-long spear in his hand that was shooting out a ray that was several dozen feet high, causing the air to tremble. It was as though it could pierce through everything. Boom, 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 comma. As a heart-stopping detonation continuously exploded, the ray that was several dozen feet high soon arrived before Duan Lingtian and almost pierced a hole through him. Damn it! The second the old man appeared with his swords, Duan Lingtian was already alerted right away. However, before he could react in time, the ray that was shot out of the old man's 7-foot spear had already reached before him and was now barely a foot away from him. He could not dodge in time at all. Bang! A loud explosion resonated and was accompanied by a rolling impact wave that swept out towards the surrounding area. The sky and the surroundings were still okay, but the sea below was now in complete turbulence. It was as if the sea surface that was originally calm had a massive stone thrown into it as the waves splashed up into the sky. With the dazzling sun as the background, the sprays of water sparkled underneath it, painting a beautiful picture. However, be it Duan Lingtian or the old man that had just appeared, none of them had the mood to appreciate the scenery at that second. Right then, Duan Lingtian was flung away by a stone tablet as if he was an arrow leaving the bowstring. The instant the stone tablet landed on him, a gush of terrifying energy slammed onto his body through the stone tablet, causing all of his organs to vibrate horribly. All he could feel was the intense pain that emanated throughout his entire body. If it were not for his resolute determination, he would have passed out and died already. After throwing up a few mouthfuls of blood, Duan Lingtian was finally able to breathe. Instantly, he took a royal-grade resurrection pill out and consumed it. The medicinal efficacy spread out and dissipated throughout his body while his injuries healed magically. However, because he was too severely injured, his injuries could not be completely healed even after he had consumed the royal-grade resurrection pill. At this speed, I'd need at least a span of 30 breaths before I can completely recover. I guess I'd need to drag it out a little then. Duan Lingtian made up his mind. It's all thanks to you. Duan Lingtian's gaze quickly landed on the Devilseal tablet that flew with him. Just now, because he managed to take the Devilseal tablet out in time, the tablet had taken the blow for him. Had it not been so, he would have been dead. After flying for a further distance, Duan Lingtian finally came to a halt. The first thing he did was to look at the hoary figure that chased up to him before mocking, "An majestic second island master of the hidden fog island has actually come to make a sneak attack on me, a nobody. Don't you think that's a little embarrassing? As long as I can kill you and take revenge for my son, so what if I may joke to everyone?" The old man who made the sneak attack on Duan Lingtian was none other than Chen Bei, the second island master of the hidden fog island. After Tang Zhen, the great island master of the hidden fog island had brought the group of people back to the hidden fog island, blinded by revenge for his son, Chen Bei who longed to kill Duan Lingtian felt that the great island master would not be interfering anymore. However, it had never crossed his mind that Duan Lingtian would actually stay behind on Half Moon Island. Not only that, but he also heard that the mysterious teenage girl beside Duan Lingtian could actually kill the great island master of the Coral Island with just the help of a yellow piece of paper that was scribbled on with a talisman. The great island master of the Coral Island had a level of strength that was in no way inferior to that of their great island master of the hidden fog islands. Due to this reason, he started to feel a sense of pressure. Nevertheless, he still came to Half Moon Island. Actually, he had already reached Half Moon Island a few days ago. Today, he finally found the opportunity, certain that the teenage girl beside Duan Lingtian would not appear. "I can't believe that you actually have a spirit weapon that you can use for defense. You're really lucky. However, your luck won't be that good anymore the next time." Chen Bei smirked coldly. "Chen Bei, do you know why I killed your son?" Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice. Right then, he needed time to recuperate. Otherwise, he was no match for Chen Bei at all. Chen Bei was the second island master of the hidden fog island and he was at the 8th level martial emperor stage. Even though his strength had made a great leap forward in the past 6 months, to the point that even Han Shuinai was taken by surprise, it was still impossible for him to battle Chen Bei with an injured body. No matter why you killed my son, today is the day you'll be buried. A cold brilliance flashed in Chen Bei's eyes as he flicked the 7-foot-long spear in his hand. Horrifying origin energy swept out tyrannically and along with the profundity energy that soared up to the sky. They caused the air around them to quiver. When the spear moved, the air trembled instantly like a stone thrown into the calm sea, setting off circles of ripples. How powerful! Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian was instantly shocked. No wonder he's the second island master of the Hidden Fog Island. Chen Bei's strength must be at the very top among all the 8th-level martial emperors. Although the heaven and earth energy would no longer solidify into a heaven and earth phenomenon no matter who made their move after they had left the cloud continent, Duan Lingtian could still faintly sense the terror of Chen Bei's strength. Chen Bei, before your son died, he told me something. Do you want to know what it was? Seeing that Chen Bei was about to make his move again, Duan Lingtian gasped inwardly, but he still had a calm facade on his face as he taunted. It was also because of Duan Lingtian's composure that Chen Bei did not make his move. The coldness in Chen Bei's eyes did not diminish as he lifted a brow and asked in a deep voice, "What's that?" Sweeping a glance at the 7-foot spear in Chen Bei's hand, Duan Lingtian said, "Chen Bei, don't you think you need to show your sincerity if you want to hear your son's last words? Look at how scary you are now. You're so terrifying that I can hardly remember what your son told me." "What, are you trying to drag on longer?" Chen Bei smirked coldly. "It's useless. Even if you transmit a communication jade slip and I can't chase it, I still have the confidence to kill you before that little girl comes." Dragging. Communication jade slip. Duan Lingtian shook his head dismally. "Chen Bei, I really must say that your imagination can run pretty wild. Do you think that I wouldn't know about all this at all? Just spit it out." Chen Bei snorted. His eyes were glaring deadly at Duan Lingtian. "Stop trying to play tricks in front of me. If you make any strange moves, I'll kill you instantly. I believe that you're capable of this, but you still need to give me some time to think, all right?" Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly. Right now, a span of more than 10 breaths had gone by. A third of the injuries on his body had already healed and the medicinal efficacy of the royal grade resurrection pill was still working in his body, continuing to heal him. His injuries were being healed rapidly. However, he would still need a span of 20 breaths to heal completely to his prime. The sea surface that was originally in a turbulent gradually regained its calmness. Hovering right above the sky, Duan Lingtian frowned slightly as though he was pondering about something. In front of him, Chen Bei was glaring dangerously at him, fearing that he would play some trick. Chen Bei's hand was gripping onto the 7-foot spear as the faint origin energy was on the verge of exploding anytime soon. If there were the slightest movement, he would instantly blast his full energy out and kill Duan Lingtian. The span of another 10 breaths went by again. Chen Bei warned coldly with a grave face, "My patience is limited. Just a while more." Duan Lingtian frowned even more, not even giving a damn about Chen Bei's face that was getting darker as time went by. Just a little bit more and his injuries would be completely healed soon. Once it was completely healed, he would then possess the strength to fight Chen Bei. In these past 6 months, every aspect of his strength had made progress and he also wanted to test the level his strength had reached. He would make Chen Bei his touchstone. The final span of 10 breaths went by in just a blink of an eye. Clearly sensing that the injuries in his body had completely healed, at that moment, all he could feel was his entire body entirely filled with strength. "You tricked me." Seeing how Duan Lingtian eased his frown and allowed a smile to spread across his face, Chen Bei's face turned ominous right away. Infuriated, the origin energy in his hand skyrocketed and merged into the 7-foot spear along with his various profundities. At once, the spear flicked and a powerful energy swept out as though it was able to wipe everything out. Whoosh! In front of an enraged Chen Bei, a bow and an arrow appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand from thin air. After he slid his arrow onto the bowstring and pulled the bowstring into the shape of a full moon, the arrow shot out instantly. All of this happened in just the blink of an eye. When Chen Bei's long spear trembled and soared through the sky with a ray that was several dozens of feet long shot towards where Duan Lingtian was earlier, the latter had already dodged just a second before. Body and arrow synchronization. Stepping on the arrow that shot out, Duan Lingtian dodged the furious attack cast by Chen Bei. However, his crisis was not averted yet. He could hear the wind whistling from behind him. Without turning his head, he could tell that Chen Bei was already catching up to him. However, Chen Bei's speed was the same as his, so he could not catch up at all. How's this even possible? Having exerted his full speed to pursue Duan Lingtian, Chen Bei realized this. His face turned grave as disbelief could be seen in his eyes. How could he be so fast? Nothing's impossible. Of course, Duan Lingtian heard him. Smiling disdainfully, he mocked, Chen Bei, today I'd really love to see just how powerful you, the second island master of the Hidden Fog Island, are. Don't you want to avenge your son? Well, I'll keep you company to the end. Somehow, Duan Lingtian had already leapt off his arrow and was hovering in the sky in the distance. Looking down at Chen Bei from the sky, he continued to provoke him. Do you really think that you can defeat me just because your speed is equal to mine? What a joke. The strongest technique I, Chen Bei, have isn't speed. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's mocking, Chen Bei was instantly enraged. Snarling loudly, he refused to lose to Duan Lingtian. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was already cut off by Duan Lingtian. You said that your speed isn't your strongest strength but your offensive technique is, isn't it? Well, then let me have a taste, won't you? The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, his arrow had already slid onto his curved bow. With a creak and a tremble, his bowstring was once again pulled into a full moon. At the same time, his gaze was fixed upon Chen Bei who was charging at him rapidly. After he locked his target on Chen Bei, he released the arrow. Whoosh! The sharp arrow that was as black as ink was like an onyx lightning bolt that soared through the sky as it went head-on with Chen Bei. Its target was the spot between Chen Bei's brows. As the sharp whistling got nearer, Chen Bei could only see a black spot that was getting closer to him and soon arrived before his eyes. He felt like as though he could sense the aura of death and horror dawned on him. Chapter 1333, Clang. Along with the stifling thunderous whistling of the wind, an explosion of metal weapons clashing against each other resonated in the air. It turned out that Chen Bei had wheeled around and retaliated, blocking the arrow that Duan Lingtian shot at him. Although the 7-foot spear in Chen Bei's hand blocked the arrow, he was not in an advantageous position. His entire body and his spear had absorbed the force from the arrow forcibly. Not only that, but there was even a deep dent on the spear in his hand. The long spear that was on the quasi-royal grade spirit weapon level had been disfigured just like that. However, Chen Bei did not give a damn about all of that because he was already injured quite severely. Duan Lingtian, I admit that I've underestimated you. However, do you really think that you can kill me just with that feeble strength of yours? After swallowing a grade 1 life recovery pill, Chen Bei's injuries mended a little. In his improved condition, he instantly pounded towards Duan Lingtian and with a flick of the long spear in his hand, a spear ray that was several dozen feet long materialized again. Even though Duan Lingtian had managed to injure him with an arrow, he felt that all of this was because he had underestimated the man. Furthermore, the arrow from earlier did not threaten him much. Feeble strength of mine. Upon hearing the taunting and watching Chen Bei charging towards him with a spear, a sneer crept upon the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth. Then, without intending to continue dodging, he released an arrow with a raise of his hand once again. Arrow light strike. This shot was on a whole other level compared to the arrow earlier. The energy it contained soared through the sky like a meteor piercing the air. Clang! Another ear-piercing metal clashing resonated. Along with gushes of vast rolling impact waves, Chen Bei blocked Duan Lingtian's arrow again. However, this time, he was no longer as lucky as the previous time. His 7-foot spear snapped into two and the bones of his hand that was holding onto the spear were completely shattered all the way up to his shoulder. In particular, the bones in his palm were completely crushed into powder. Impossible. Seeing his quasi-royal grade spirit spear being snapped into two like that, disbelief was written all over Chen Bei's face. However, his attention quickly fell onto his crippled arm. How is this possible? How can he be so strong? To him, the arrow that Duan Lingtian shot out the second time was like an apocalypse. Whoa, has the power of the arrow light strike has actually been elevated so much after I've made a breakthrough to the elementary stage? Duan Lingtian was taken aback by the effect of his shot. In fact, the arrow light strike, the offensive technique that he had cultivated from the colossal arrow-light arrow, had only achieved elementary stage just 3 days ago. The elementary stage was the second stage of a saint-grade martial tactic. Now that he had reached this stage, Duan Lingtian could feel that the force was several times mightier than before. The elevation in power was so huge that one could use the word bombastic to describe it. No, this can't be. This can't be. Looking at Duan Lingtian, who was hovering in the air, full of high spirits, Chen Bei's face turned even graver. In his heart, he continued to shout with despair apparent on his face. He was very clear that he was not even a match for Duan Lingtian now, let alone defeating him and taking revenge for his son. Die. I want you to die. Duan Lingtian, I want you to die. In the end, Chen Bei almost became demented. He was completely infuriated to the point that he had gone insane. His hand that was still intact took hold of the 7-foot spear before he charged towards Duan Lingtian with full fury again. You're just kicking pricks. After experiencing the force of his arrow-light strike that had entered the elementary stage, Duan Lingtian's confidence multiplied and he merely smirked disdainfully at the berserk Chen Bei. At the same time, his hands were not idle either. Arrow-light strike. Another arrow shot out. Chen Bei, whose dominant arm had been crippled, could not block it at all. As easy as pie, it flew through the spot between his eyebrows right away. In the next instance, a bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows. His brains oozed out and his entire body collapsed downwards with his eyes open, evidently holding grudges that were unsatisfied. What the, did I just kill an 8th-level martial emperor? Duan Lingtian's emotions were in a turmoil and he felt like he was dreaming. I can't believe that ever since my cultivation base has broken through to the 6th-level martial emperor stage, and after my fused and sword profundities have been elevated as well, I actually killed Chen Bei so easily with just the help of the elementary stage arrow-light strike. Duan Lingtian could not return to his senses for a long time. These 6 months was when he had made the most progress. Even he had no idea why. In the end, he could only attribute his achievement to the Saint Stones and the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique that he had cultivated. Ever since I've made a breakthrough to the Martial Emperor stage, I feel like I can now cultivate the 9th form of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, the Divine Dragon form, much faster. Right now, every time I increase my cultivation base, my cultivation speed has become much faster too. Duan Lingtian could not help but muse over the magnitude the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique demonstrated after he had broken through to the Martial Emperor stage. As expected of the technique that is comparable to the 3 Lives Rebirth technique in the Rebirth Martial Emperor's memory. The 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique is much stronger than the other top techniques like the Han Bing's Divine Sword technique, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself. After going through the commotion Chen Bei created, he no longer had the heart to cultivate anymore, so he just proceeded to go back to accompany the 2 girls. If it were not for the plan to head to Dao Martial Saint Land to find his parents, he actually itched to just stay beside his 2 fiancées. Even though it was said that a woman's gentleness was the grave of a hero, he did not mind at all. With just the flick of a finger, another 6 months had gone by. One day, the entire Half Moon Island seemed to experience an earthquake as it suddenly quaked violently. Bastard! Duan Lingtian, who was originally cultivating in the room, widened his eyes right away before he quickly flew out. In this past year, the reason he did not leave Half Moon Island hastily was because of Wang Ba. It was the same Wang Ba who had taken over the body of Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island. However, right then, Wang Ba was using the name of the original owner of the body that he had taken over, Di Yong. Outside the deep mountain that was covered in clouds and mist all year round, the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island hovered in the air and gazed at the deep mountains respectfully, not daring to go near them at all. Lord Island Master finally is coming out now. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island each had a smile on their faces. I'm sure Lord Island Master's strength will be greatly amplified this time when he comes out. By that time, we can then snatch that treasure from the sea monster. Shao Kun's eyes brightened as he said with a burning expression. The other 2 Vice Island Masters of the Half Moon Island piped up. That's right. In the past, Lord Island Master's strength was on par with that sea monster. Hence, he couldn't snatch that treasure at all. This time, after coming out of this closed-door cultivation, he'll definitely be able to defeat that sea monster and grasp that treasure. HMPH. It really is annoying, that sea monster doesn't even understand the treasure, yet it still refuses to give it to Lord Island Master. This time, I want to see how it's going to die. The 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island did not realize that when they were deep in their discussion, a figure had flown past on top of them and entered the deep mountain that was covered by mist and cloud in the blink of an eye. Treasure. Duan Lingtian was already waiting right there in the deep mountains. Noticing a figure appearing outside, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up right away. Shui Nai, why are you late? Brother Lingtian, I overheard the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island saying that there's some kind of treasure, Han Shui Nai reported with a blazing gaze. Treasure. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up as well. What treasure? In his opinion, since the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were at the peak of the Martial Emperor Stage 2, whatever they regarded as treasure would definitely be valuable. I don't really know what exactly that treasure is, but I heard that it seems to be in the hands of a sea monster or something. Not only that, but the sea monster also has a strength that's on par with De Yong's as well, Han Shui Nai replied. Therefore, that sea monster must also be at the early stage of the mortal shedding stage just like De Yong. However, since De Yong has absorbed the vital essence of 85 powerhouses who were in their prime, I'm sure he can also make a breakthrough to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage. If Wang Ba can take over his body completely, then he'll be able to inherit all of his strength, Han Shui Nai continued. Duan Lingtian nodded. 1 year has gone now. By right, Bastard should have already taken over De Yong's body completely by now. Let's go in and have a look. He motioned to Han Shui Nai and they proceeded to enter the mountain. I remember that Bastard has concealed himself somewhere here the last time. Duan Lingtian looked at the surroundings and said. That's right. It's here, Han Shui Nai confirmed, recognizing this place as well. Boy, I've told you that I've changed my name, remember? I'm no longer called Wang Ba, but De Yong now. Just as Han Shui Nai's words left her mouth, an annoyed voice resonated, approaching nearer. Soon, a sturdy black figure appeared in front of Duan Lingtian and Han Shui Nai. It was a tall middle-aged man dressed in black. However, this figure was alien to Han Shui Nai. However, Duan Lingtian did not find it unfamiliar at all. It was none other than De Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island whom he had met before. Of course, the island master of Half Moon Island, De Yong's soul had been sealed by the Devil Seal tablet. The Devil Seal tablet had annihilated a mere soul who was at the early stage of the mortal shedding stage in just the blink of an eye. Right now, the De Yong who was standing in front of Duan Lingtian was the De Yong whose body had been taken over by Wang Ba's soul. He was a completely new De Yong now. Well, I've already gotten used to that name, so I can't just change it like that in such a short period of time. Despite facing the pissed-off De Yong, Duan Lingtian merely shook his head before he asked again, Bastard, have you completely taken over his body now? Yes. De Yong nodded indifferently. He still looked annoyed that Duan Lingtian was still calling him Bastard. Bastard, he sucked in so much vital essence the last time, so he must have made a breakthrough to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage, hasn't he? Han Shui Nai asked De Yong. De Yong nodded again. I've only heard of the 5-clawed divine dragon, the lineal descendant of the dragon clan before, and I know that their innate talents are very high. I'm curious. Right now, as the 5-clawed divine dragon, how many saint veins have you opened after making a breakthrough to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage? Han Shui Nai asked again. Upon hearing Han Shui Nai, before De Yong could even reply, Duan Lingtian stared at him instantly with curiosity in his eyes. Chapter 1334, 23 Veins. De Yong beamed with a very dazzling smile. 23 veins. Upon hearing De Yong, Duan Lingtian was indifferent, but Han Shui Nai, on the other hand, was consumed by bafflement. You've already opened 23 saint veins in the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage. By the time you enter the paramount stage of the mortal shedding stage, wouldn't you stand a chance to open more than 70 saint veins then? 70 saint veins. This time, the moment Duan Lingtian heard Han Shui Nai exclaim in astonishment, he finally realized what was going on. His eyes narrowed right away while shock was clearly written on his face. He could still remember that the current version of De Yong, who was previously Wang Ba, had told him before that during his era, the person who had opened the most saint veins accumulated a total of only 67 saint veins, and at that time, he only managed to open 59 saint veins. However, now Shui Nai had actually said that De Yong stood a chance to open to 70 saint veins. How could Duan Lingtian not be surprised? There should be no trouble for me to open over 70 saint veins. Right at that second, the smile on De Yong's face grew even brighter. As a former saint stage powerhouse, he was very clear about the cultivation path of the mortal shedding stage. With the innate talent of being able to open 23 saint veins at the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage and along with the devil cultivation technique that he had cultivated the last time, he was absolutely sure that he would be able to open up more than 70 saint veins by the time he reached the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage. The mortal shedding stage was divided into 5 stages: the early mortal shedding stage, the intermediate mortal shedding stage, the master mortal shedding stage, the perfection mortal shedding stage, and the paramount mortal shedding stage. Each of the stages had a completely different strength from one another. Be it martial or Tao cultivators, once they had made a breakthrough to the paramount stage of the mortal shedding stage, the saint veins that were opened in their bodies would be shaped, and in the future, no new saint vein could be opened anymore. The number of saint veins opened by the time one reached the paramount stage of the mortal shedding stage would not change in the future anymore unless one encountered some serendipitous meeting. Of course, such a fortuitous meeting was extremely rare. It was so rare that barely any man would come across with it even in the span of 10,000 years. The number of saint veins would affect the cultivation speed of the martial or Tao cultivator. The more saint veins one had, the speed of absorbing the energy from the heaven and earth and even the saint stone would increase as well. Apart from that, the number of the saint veins would also have a direct impact on the martial or Tao cultivator's strength. Among the martial or Tao cultivators who were on the same cultivation base, those who had more saint veins would possess more powerful strength. Now, I finally understand why a 5-clawed devil dragon could almost topple the entire dragon clan by itself. It's definitely the dragon with the strongest innate talent among all 5-clawed divine dragons. Han Shuinai gasped and muttered to herself, as far as I know, an ordinary 5-clawed divine dragon can only open 66 saint veins at the most in the history of the dragon clan. Di Yong reached out a hand to slowly caress his body lovingly. The more he caressed it, the more he fell in love with it. With an intoxicated look, he remarked, "This body is just perfect. With this body of mine, it's only a matter of time before I finally go back to being at the summit. No, I can completely surpass the previous primetime stage that I was at the last time." Upon seeing Di Yong's weird actions, all Duan Lingtian could feel were the goosebumps creeping up all over his body. Was this guy touching himself? Pervert. What a pervert. Soon, Di Yong froze and looked at Duan Lingtian before announcing nonchalantly, "Boy, you could say that you've paid off your debt by helping me to obtain this body that belongs to a dragon clan's lineal descendant. From today onwards, you'll walk your own path and I'll walk mine. Our bond is no longer relevant now." No longer relevant? Duan Lingtian could not help but narrow his eyes right away. Bastard, you've just obtained a new body and you immediately want to cut off all ties with me. HMPH. Boy, you have that Devilseal tablet with you, so it's better if I stay as far away from you as possible. Otherwise, who knows if one day you might use it to seal me anytime when you're feeling pissed off. Di Yong snorted, his tone full of dread. His soul was not yet fully recovered and if he were sealed by the Devilseal tablet again, he would definitely vanish. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian was even more terrifying than a saint stage powerhouse. He could easily destroy him with just a snap of his finger. Even after he had managed to take over the body of a 5-clawed devil dragon and obtained an unparalleled innate talent that ensured him a smooth boundless cultivation journey in front of him, he was still a devil cultivator no matter what. As a devil cultivator who was at the mortal shedding stage, he was completely powerless in the face of the Devilseal tablet in Duan Lingtian's hand. The Devilseal tablet that was activated by an innate stage martial cultivator was more than enough to seal a mortal shedding stage devil cultivator easily. "I won't stop you from leaving, but I hope that you can settle the situation for me," Duan Lingtian replied nonchalantly. "Settle the situation? What situation are you referring to?" Di Yong was stunned. "I've killed Di Yong, the original island master of Half Moon Island, and you've snatched his body. Although he's a 5-clawed devil dragon, the fact that he could leave the dragon clan alive meant that there must be some other 5-clawed divine dragons helping him in the dark. If we don't settle this properly, what happens if that 5-clawed divine dragon comes knocking on the door? You were once a saint stage powerhouse at Dao Martial Saint Land and I'm sure you know how strong an adult 5-clawed divine dragon is, don't you?" Duan Lingtian rolled his eyes at Di Yong. "So what, we can just leave like this? Don't tell me that you're still afraid that the 5-clawed divine dragon will be able to catch us." Di Yong answered as though he was not concerned at all. Dao Martial Saint Land was so huge and he did not believe that the adult 5-clawed divine dragon would be able to find him. Well, that was unless the entire dragon clan made a move. However, since this issue was related to a 5-clawed devil dragon, he believed that the 5-clawed divine dragon would not dare to alert the entire dragon clan. In fact, the five-clawed devil dragon was a taboo in the dragon clan. Even if outsiders would not kill it, the dragon clan would never let it stay alive. Yes, it's true that we can just leave like that, but how about my sect? If that five-clawed divine dragon really wants to hold somebody responsible, it'll definitely affect my sect. Duan Lingtian frowned. You're really troublesome. Fine then, since I'm in such an excellent mood today, I'll help you settle everything then. Just tell me, what do you want me to do? Di Yong asked slightly exasperatedly. You only need to pass yourself off as the island master of Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian said. Pass myself off as the island master of Half Moon Island? Di Yong frowned. Boy, I'm not willing to stay on Half Moon Island for long. I want to go to Dao Martial Saint Land. I know. Duan Lingtian nodded. I didn't ask you to stay here on Half Moon Island. I just want you to pretend that you're the island master of Half Moon Island. As long as you leave after you've made your stance clear in front of the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island, I don't care where you want to go. You want me to act as the island master of Half Moon Island and leave as him as well? Then, when that five-clawed divine dragon comes in the future, it will think that he left willingly by himself. Di Yong clarified. That's right, Duan Lingtian confirmed. Only then, we won't infuriate the five-clawed divine dragon. Since it's willing to risk being punished by the dragon clan by bringing Di Yong away from Dao Martial Saint Land, I'm sure it has quite a close relationship with Di Yong. I even suspect that the five-clawed divine dragon might be Di Yong's parents, Duan Lingtian continued. Tui, nobody is worthy of being my parents at all. Not even a five-clawed divine dragon. Di Yong snapped. I meant Di Yong, the island master of Half Moon Island, that I killed, not you. Duan Lingtian rolled his eyes. In that case, you go look for the 3 Half Moon Islands vice island masters now and tell them that you'll accept me as your direct disciple. Then, openly hand Half Moon Island to me. Not only that, but also ask them to pledge their loyalty to me and can never harbor any evil feelings towards me using the 9-9 heavenly tribulation. After you've told them about this, you can just leave and go to Dao Martial Saint Land, Duan Lingtian continued to tell Di Yong. This was an idea that he had already thought of to make Half Moon Island, the strongest island of the 4 great overseas Saint Islands, his. To him, Half Moon Island was no doubt a great place. The supreme great origin stone vein hidden underground was more than double the size of the one hidden underground on the hidden Fog Island. The cultivation surrounding here could be considered the best outside Dao Martial Saint Land. Of course, it was Han Shuinai who had told Duan Lingtian this. After he had mastered Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian planned to move his Lingtian sect there. With the island as his base camp, the people of the Lingtian sect would definitely be able to build their strength rapidly. Han Shuinai also fully supported Duan Lingtian's idea. Boy, you really have a huge appetite. You actually want to take over this island. Di Yong took a careful look at Duan Lingtian before saying. A huge appetite. Duan Lingtian scowled at Di Yong with scorn immediately. Come on, when it comes to appetite, how can mine be huge compared to yours? You've taken over the body of a 5-clawed devil dragon, for goodness sake. With its body, you could even open more than 70 saint veins. We don't even know who else in Dao Martial Saint Land can open more saint veins than you, Duan Lingtian snapped. Haha, you have a point there. With this 5-clawed devil dragon, I must enter the top 10 of the Supreme Saint ranking. Wait a minute, no, the top 5. Di Yong threw his head back and guffawed. Top 10, what pitiful ambition you have. Duan Lingtian rolled his eyes at Di Yong and snorted with disdain. HMPH, boy, do you really think that the powerhouses on the Supreme Saint ranking are all weak? Let me tell you, even in my era, the highest rank that the powerhouse who opened the most saint veins at a record of 67 veins was only the 7th in the Supreme Saint ranking. Di Yong continued, there are many powerful powerhouses in Dao Martial Saint Land, and Saint Vein does indeed have a great impact on one's strength. However, there are many other techniques in other aspects that have an equally great impact on strength too. That's right, Brother Lingtian. Those powerhouses who are at the top of the Supreme Saint ranking aren't necessarily the powerhouses who have opened the most saint veins in Dao Martial Saint Land. Of course, the number of saint veins that they've opened is more or less the same with the powerhouse who's opened the most saint veins, Han Shuinai piped in. Oh, I see, Duan Lingtian finally understood. Of course, the difference wouldn't be too far either, like the sword saint that I've mentioned before. He managed to open all of the saint veins in the body and actually opened 81 saint veins in total. The difference between the number of Saint Vanes other people have opened compared to him is a huge chasm. They couldn't compare to him at all even when it comes to the technique of other aspects because the difference in the base was just too huge, Han Shui continued. Chapter 1335. The Saint Vane was considered the foundation for the martial cultivators and Dao cultivators of Dao martial Saint Land. The more Saint Vanes one opened up, the higher their achievements would be in the future. Although the person who opened the most Saint Vanes was not necessarily the strongest, they would have a very significant advantage. It seems like the martial cultivators and the Dao cultivators of the Dao martial Saint Land still have some other powerful moves later on, so much so as to enable them to ignore the gap between the number of Saint Vanes. Duan Lingtian secretly thought as he became more and more excited about his cultivation journey in Dao martial Saint Land. Currently, his cultivation base had broken through to the 6th level martial emperor stage. As long as he continued to work hard on cultivating, he believed that with Saint Stones, he would be able to reach Martial Emperor peak within a year. By that time, he could officially begin to break through to the mortal shedding stage. I believe in the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, he thought with conviction. The reason for his confidence in his ability to break through to the Martial Emperor peak within a year was Duan Lingtian's blind faith in the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. The 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique was a powerful cultivation method which was as famous as the 3 Lives Rebirth technique cultivated by the Rebirth Martial Emperor. Nevertheless, the 3 Lives Rebirth technique cultivated by the Rebirth Martial Emperor was a whole level better than the top-tier cultivation methods on the Cloud Continent such as the Han Bing's Divine Sword technique, the Galactic Star technique, and the Demonic Beauty Divine technique. Regardless of whether it was one of the 3 techniques, they were all powerful cultivation methods which could be cultivated up to the Martial Emperor peak. If there was a cultivation method which was better than them, it could be considered the strongest cultivation method on the Cloud Continent. 3 of Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island are outside right now. When Shui Nai was coming over, she heard them speak of an early-stage mortal shedding stage sea demon which was guarding a treasure. Previously, the island master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong, had tried to steal the treasure a few times, but he never succeeded. Duan Lingtian said to Di Yong, they thought that as long as you break through to the intermediate stage of the mortal shedding stage, you'd be able to steal the treasure from the sea demon. Treasure. Di Yong's eyes lit up when he heard Duan Lingtian. Let's go. Let's end this. Hearing about the treasure, he became more excited than anyone else and he flew away immediately. Without hesitating, Duan Lingtian and Han Shui Nai followed him. Beyond the misty mountains, 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island stood there silently without the slightest hint of impatience. Shortly, their eyes lit up suddenly. They instantly looked towards the figure flying out from the mountains. It was a tall, black figure which was familiar to them. Lord Island Master. Facing the middle-aged man in black who flew out from the mountains, the trio including Xiao Kun bowed respectfully to him. The middle-aged man in black was none other than Di Yong who nodded faintly at the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island who were bowing to him. Naturally, this was not the previous Island Master of Half Moon Island, Di Yong. Even though it was still the same body, the soul had changed and he was completely a different person. However, the 3 Vice Island Masters could not detect that. Soon, Duan Lingtian and Han Shui Nai emerged too and stood behind Di Yong. The appearance of the duo surprised the 3 Vice Island Masters. From now on, this man, Duan Lingtian, is my direct disciple and also the new master of Half Moon Island. Di Yong declared. What? The 3 Vice Island Masters were dumbfounded. Previously, the Island Master did not take a liking to Duan Lingtian, did he? Had he changed his mind at the last minute? The more they thought about it, the more certain they were. I've decided to leave Half Moon Island after a few days to head to Dao Martial Saint Land. However, before leaving, you all must swear an oath on the 9 heavenly tribulation to pledge allegiance to my direct disciple, Di Yong continued saying. The 3 Vice Island Masters never expected Di Yong to announce that and their expressions changed drastically. They were willing to stay by his side and become Vice Island Masters because they respected his strength. They were willing to be under Di Yong. However, every fiber of their being was reluctant to be under a young boy. What? Are there any difficulties? Noticing the hesitation among the Vice Island Masters, Di Yong's eyes turned cold and a vast aura exuded from his body. Instantly, it swept towards them. Barf. Wah. Suddenly, the 3 men trembled and became pale as they spat blood out. The pressure they felt was getting heavier and heavier as the feeling of suffocation made them despair. At once, the 3 of them gave in. Following that, Under De Yong's fierce and piercing gaze, the three men swore an oath based on the 9 heavenly tribulation to stay loyal to Duan Ling Tian. After that, De Yong asked them to lead the way to the sea demon which was guarding the treasure. Lord Island Master, that sea demon has stayed in the west all this time. Under the guidance of the 3 vice island masters of Half Moon Island, Duan Ling Tian and the rest arrived at the sea to the west of Half Moon Island. They headed west all the way and traveled for half an hour. Above the vast and calm sea, a group of 5 stood unmoving. Go in. After confirming that this was the correct place, a gentle force radiated from De Yong's body and instantly transformed into a transparent light shield which shrouded the 5 of them. After that, he brought all of them, including Duan Ling Tian, to enter the sea. Instantly, the calmness of the sea was disrupted and vast, rolling waves swept out one after another. The calamity did not stop for a long time. At the same time, De Yong led Duan Ling Tian and the rest into the deep sea. After Duan Ling Tian observed the surrounding transparent light shield and sensed the aura of it, he murmured, "This isn't origin energy. Brother Ling Tian, it's true energy." Han Shuinai heard Duan Ling Tian's murmur and explained, "When a martial cultivator's cultivation base breaks through to the mortal shedding stage, an energy pool will appear in their body and their origin energy will transform into a new force, which is the true energy. True energy is a kind of force which is one level higher than origin energy," Han Shuinai said. Duan Ling Tian understood and eventually became accustomed to the unusual. "Where's it?" De Yong looked back and glanced at 3 vice island masters. "There." The 3 of them quickly pointed towards a direction. The whereabouts of the sea demon would change every once in a while. All this time, the 3 of them were personally pursuing the whereabouts of the sea demon, so they knew exactly where it was. Under the guidance of the Vice Island Masters, Duan Ling Tian and the 2 other finally saw the sea demon. That sea demon was lying deep in the sea, hidden amongst the algae in the deep waters. An octopus. Approaching it, Duan Ling Tian noticed the details of the sea demon. It was an octopus. More accurately, it was an extra-massive octopus which looked like a giant mountain. The creature lay there like a mountain at the bottom of the sea. Soon, Duan Ling Tian's gaze shifted to one of the octopus's tentacles as if he had just discovered something. A pagoda as large as an adult was hovering there, wrapped in the tentacle. From a distance, the pagoda looked very exquisite. Apart from that, it invoked an extremely special feeling within Duan Ling Tian. It was a rather familiar feeling, but even Duan Ling Tian himself thought that he was misguided. The Vice Island Masters looked at the pagoda in unison and said to De Yong softly, "Lord Island Master, the treasure's there." De Yong's eyes also landed on the pagoda. "It doesn't seem any different. Did you say it's a treasure?" Han Shuinai asked. "Miss Shuinai, you don't know, this pagoda doesn't seem special, but it wasn't affected by the previous battles between the Lord Island Master and Sea Demon no matter how strong the aftershocks were," Xiao Kun said with a dignified expression. "The power was blocked around a 1-meter radius from it. Everything was blocked from it. There's a force on its surface protecting it. Just like it is now, the sea demon's tentacle seems to be wrapping it, but in actuality, it isn't even touching it," Xiao Kun continued saying. Listening to Xiao Kun, Duan Ling Tian, Han Shuinai, and De Yong looked over and noticed that the huge octopus's tentacles did not, in fact, touch the pagoda. There seemed to be a protective layer spanning about a meter that was preventing everything from going near it. "He's woken up." Suddenly, Xiao Kun called out. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian saw the huge octopus open its eyes which were as big as a washbasin and were gleaming with cold flashes. The minute it woke up, it noticed Duan Ling Tian and the rest. Immediately, its swift and piercing eyes locked onto De Yong. To it, De Yong was already an old pal. Boom, 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 when the huge octopus moved, it was like hills toppling, and the earth was quaking on the whole seabed. The water stirred and caused the transparent light shield around Duan Ling Tian and the rest to shake. However, it was a light shield supported by De Yong's true energy after all, so it was not really affected. HMPH. De Yong snorted when he faced with the huge octopus rising. Then, he moved as he transformed into a bolt of black lightning, instantly shooting out. The water stirred and parted, forming a long road, then the path closed moments later. Rumble. At the same time, a loud noise spread as the hills rose and fell and the earth trembled again. In the next moment, all 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were dumbstruck. A hole seemed to have appeared on the head of the huge octopus. It was an enormous hole, large enough to fit a person. The hole had torn through the whole head of the huge octopus and killed it. The Lord Island Master's strength. After the Vice Island Masters regained their senses, they all seemed shocked. Had the powerful sea demon which used to be as strong as the Island Master just been killed by him in one move? That's quite over the top. Duan Lingtian was shocked too. Are you from Yanhuang land? Suddenly, an old voice echoed in Duan Lingtian's ear, jolting him. Yanhuang land, was that not the name of the land of Hua in the ancient myths and legends of Hua from his previous life? The people of Hua were the people of Yanhuang land, also known as the descendants of Emperor Yan and Emperor Huang. Chapter 1336. The old voice confused Duan Lingtian for a while. He only regained his senses after quite some time. After he regained his senses, Duan Lingtian started to look around, intending to find the owner of the voice. At that very moment, he was filled with excitement. He subconsciously felt that the owner of the voice must have something to do with the planet Earth from his previous life. Stop finding me. I'm in the pagoda before you, continued the old voice. At once, Duan Lingtian stopped moving and looked towards the pagoda floating in the depths of the sea. At that moment, Di Yong was standing in front of it. Suddenly, Di Yong reached out to try and touch it, but the invisible force surrounding it blocked Di Yong, who was on the intermediate stage of mortal shedding stage. Di Yong had no way to suppress that force. This pagoda is really not that simple. Di Yong's eyes lit up. Indeed, it isn't. All of a sudden, Han Shui-nai also reached Di Yong's side and observed the pagoda. Moments later, she reached out and experimented on the pagoda, which was as tall as an adult. She realized that her force could not suppress the power around the pagoda either. This strength, it doesn't seem to be true energy, Han Shui-nai murmured, confusion apparent on her face. At the same time, the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island also stepped forward to observe the pagoda. They were like Di Yong and Han Shui-nai. They could not do anything towards the pagoda and could only look at it. Duan Lingtian moved and supported a layer of light shield with origin energy on the surface of his body. He went beside Han Shui-nai and reached out with one hand to grab the floating pagoda. Watching Duan Lingtian's movement, Han Shui-nai, Di Yong, and the rest merely looked on calmly. In their opinion, it was even more impossible for Duan Lingtian to be able to do anything towards the pagoda since they failed. After all, Duan Lingtian's strength was the weakest among them. However, in the very next moment, they were stunned. They watched Duan Lingtian stretch out his hand flatly towards the pagoda. He did not seem to encounter any obstacle in the process and easily touched the pagoda. How's that possible? Di Yong and the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island shrank their pupils. Shock and disbelief were apparent on their faces. Brother Lingtian, Han Shui-nai was also shocked by the scene before her eyes. While she and Di Yong could not do anything towards the pagoda, Brother Lingtian had easily touched it. When Duan Lingtian touched the pagoda with his hands, he simply felt that it was ice cold. At the same time, a warm airflow ran from the pagoda into his body along his arm and circulated in his body. At that moment, Duan Lingtian felt comfortable and warm. It was so pleasurable that he unconsciously closed his eyes. As he closed his eyes and seemed to revel in it when he touched the pagoda, Di Yong, Han Shui-nai and the three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were moved. Following that, Di Yong and Han Shui-nai reached out in succession and slowly moved towards the pagoda. Soon, they discovered that they did not feel the pressure on their hands as before when their hands were 1 meter away from the pagoda. Their eyes brightened. They took a deep breath and continued moving forward, intending to touch the pagoda. Boom, boom. However, as their hands moved forward, a terrifying force surged, plunging into their bodies forcefully and sending both of them flying away. Instantly, regardless of Di Yong or Han Shui-nai, both of them looked pale and were obviously injured. The three Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island felt their spines shudder and their blood curdle when they saw that scene. They completely dispelled the notion of touching the pagoda. Soon after, all 5 pairs of eyes landed onto Duan Lingtian in unison. They realized that although a powerful force had erupted from the pagoda earlier, Duan Lingtian was not affected as he remained standing there with his hands on the pagoda. From the beginning to the end, Duan Lingtian's eyes were shut tightly and the blissful expression on his face remained as if he was enjoying some sort of baptism. Damn, Di Yong cursed, this broken pagoda only recognizes the boy. It seems that Brother Lingtian is destined for it. This pagoda is really spiritual. I think even the greatest super saint weapons on the 10 great saint weapon rankings on Dao Martial Saint Land wouldn't be as spiritual as it, Han Shui-nai murmured. Perhaps, it's one of the super saint weapons in the 10 great saint weapon rankings. As De Jong spoke, the passion rose in his eyes. The gazes of the 3 Vice Island masters towards Duan Lingtian were laced with jealousy. All of them could see that the pagoda was not ordinary. What a joke, even the strength of the island masters of Half Moon Island was helpless against it. How could it just be an ordinary pagoda? No matter how surprised the 5 of them were, Duan Lingtian was currently in a state of wonder. It was like the state of a baby in the mother's womb before being born. Duan Lingtian felt that he was wrapped in a gentle, maternal sort of strength. The strength was not only tender, but it also gave him unprecedented warmth. It warmed his flesh and blood, bones, and meridians. Everything in his body seemed to undergo an earth-shattering change with the integration of that force. Time passed silently. After some time, the origin energy in Duan Lingtian's body started circulating autonomously. It circulated according to the 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique's divine dragon form, one circuit after another as if it never tired out. It never stopped from the beginning to the end. At the lowest level of the pagoda, an old voice kept echoing, "His foundation is quite good. I never expected to meet someone from the Yanhuang land here. Now, I'll have the chance to leave this hellhole." The pagoda had 7 levels from top to bottom. Without knowing how long it had been, Duan Lingtian felt the warmth leave him and he felt insatiable. However, when he opened his eyes and regained his senses, his pupils shrank. What happened? At that moment, Duan Lingtian clearly felt that his cultivation base had improved. His cultivation base was no longer at the 6th level Martial Emperor stage. He had broken through to the 9th level Martial Emperor stage. At that moment, Duan Lingtian felt like he was in a dream. What just happened? I just touched the pagoda and a force came out from it. Duan Lingtian was excited and found it hard to calm down. Then, the old voice continued to spread. Earlier, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda merged the remaining power it has into your body to help you be reincarnated. Duan Lingtian could hear that this was the voice who had called him, the people of Yanhuang land. 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Duan Lingtian could not help but be stunned when he heard the other party. The name sounded familiar as if he had heard of something similar before. Brother Lingtian. Just as Duan Lingtian started to think and remember, a voice boomed in his ear and shocked him. He looked up and saw Han Shuinai looking at him in concern. Apart from Han Shuinai, De Jong and the 3 other Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island also stood aside. Brother Lingtian, what just happened? How did you touch the pagoda? Why couldn't we? Han Shuinai glanced at the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda in front of Duan Lingtian warily and asked with a curious face. I also don't know. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Boy, you were reveling in something for half an hour earlier. What did you discover? De Jong asked, fieriness gleaming in the depth of his eyes. Half an hour. Duan Lingtian was stunned. Had it only been half an hour? In just half an hour, did my cultivation base improve from the 6th level Martial Emperor stage to the 9th level Martial Emperor stage? Having thought of that, Duan Lingtian's mood stirred again. Moreover, that voice said something about the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda having used its remaining power to help me in my rebirth. Didn't my body gone through reincarnation a long time ago? Duan Lingtian still remembered back when he was still at the Cloud Continent. At the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he had obtained the 10,000-year stalactite milk at the 7-star sword sect and completed the reincarnation with the help of the 10,000-year stalactite milk. At that time, his martial Dao innate talent had achieved that limit of a Cloud Continent's martial artists. For a time, Duan Lingtian was puzzled by what the old voice said. How? Did you discover anything? De Jong looked towards Duan Lingtian and asked again. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head and subconsciously kept the voice a secret. Then, he looked at the floating pagoda in front of him and thought, listening to that voice earlier, I think it's called the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. It'd be amazing if the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda could be smaller. Duan Lingtian thought while looking at the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, which was as tall as he was. Almost just as Duan Lingtian finished that thought, he suddenly discovered that the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda in front of him had experienced a dramatic change. Along with the silhouette which was getting smaller, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda became smaller and finally landed steadily in his hands. While holding the pagoda, which was now only 1 foot tall, Duan Lingtian was astonished and it took a while before he regained his senses. De Jong, Han Shuinai, and the rest were also shocked by the scene before them at once. This pagoda can shrink. One of the Vice Island masters, Shao Kun, gulped a mouthful of saliva and said incredulously. I'm not dreaming, am I? Another Vice Island master forcefully pinched his own thighs, the shooting pain from his thigh confirming that everything in front of him was real. Although the last Vice Island master did not say anything, the shock and disbelief in his eyes undoubtedly illustrated his current thoughts. De Yong and Han Shui-nai looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes as well. This pagoda, is it really one of the greatest super saint weapons among the 10 great saint weapon rankings? De Yong murmured. There's indeed a pagoda-shaped super saint weapon among the 10 great saint weapon rankings called the Vast Sky Pagoda. Is this it? Han Shui-nai guessed. Chapter 1337. That's not right. Han Shui-nai, who had just made a guess earlier, seemed to have thought of something suddenly and she shook her head in denial of her own theory. Rumor has it that the Vast Sky Pagoda is in the hands of a top saint stage powerhouse. It's impossible for it to appear here. If it isn't the Vast Sky Pagoda, then what could it be? De Yong looked at the petite and exquisite pagoda in Duan Ling Tian's hands and murmured. He frowned, feeling totally clueless. At that time, regardless of Han Shui-nai, De Yong or the 3 Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island, none of them noticed that Duan Ling Tian's body shuddered involuntarily. Simultaneously, there was a gleam in the depth of his eyes. I remember now. Duan Ling Tian felt extremely excited as he looked at the small pagoda in his hands. The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, in the ancient myth and legends of Wa on Earth in my past life, it's the celestial supreme treasure in the hands of the heavenly king with a pagoda in hand, Li Jing. There were several versions about the legends of the heavenly king with a pagoda in hand, Li Jing. Nevertheless, all the versions mentioned the celestial supreme treasure in his hand, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, Duan Ling Tian quickly calmed down. Perhaps it's just a coincidence that they have the same name. In the past, he had never believed in the ancient myths and legend from his past life because they were too ridiculous. However, he changed his mind after he arrived in this world. Moreover, there would not be smoke without a fire, so there must be some truth in the ancient myths and legends that were passed down. If the legends were real, then maybe those legendary characters were real too. You're from Yanhuang land. Why would you appear here? Suddenly, the old voice sounded again and shocked Duan Ling Tian. This time, Duan Ling Tian heard it clearly. This voice, which could only be heard by him, came from the bottommost level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Who are you? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously by sending a voice transmission to the bottom of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Me, I'm the one and only 3-legged golden crow. The people from Yanhuang land honor me as the divine sunbird, continued the old voice, sharing its identity. The 3-legged golden crow. Divine sunbird. Duan Ling Tian was dumbfounded as his voice transmission was laced with shock and incredibility. Wait, are you the legendary final 3-legged golden crow that escaped Hui's arrow? Duan Ling Tian remembered that there was a legend about Hui shooting the sun in his past life. Legend had it that in ancient times, there were 11 suns in the sky. One of it was originally there, while the other 10 appeared later. The 10 extra suns were actually 10 mischievous golden crows. The myth was that they were the sons of the heavenly emperor then. The appearance of the 11 suns caused drought and the earth dried up, making times hard for the people. At that time, a human powerhouse called Hui shot 9 of the golden crows in succession with his unparalleled skills. Only one bird escaped. I didn't expect you to know this. That was a long time ago, resumed the old voice in a calm and placid manner. However, the way he said it undoubtedly confirmed his identity. He was the 3-legged golden crow that had escaped Hui's arrow in the ancient myths and legends from Duan Ling Tian's past life. He was also the divine sunbird known by the future generations. Are you really that 3-legged golden crow? Duan Ling Tian secretly gasped, and said excitedly, so, does it mean that you're from Earth like me? Earth. The 3-legged golden crow's tone was filled with confusion. Yanhuang land is on Earth, Duan Ling Tian explained. Yanhuang land, I left that place a long time ago. I can't even remember how long ago it was. As for the Earth you've mentioned, we called it Planet Yanhuang, the 3-legged golden crow said. Planet Yanhuang was my hometown. As the 3-legged golden crow spoke, his tone became somewhat sentimental. Planet Yanhuang. Duan Ling Tian was stunned. It was his first time hearing that Earth had another name, but that was not the point right then. How did you get here? The 3-legged golden crow asked again. I felt that your soul holds the aura of Yanhuang land. Your hometown should also be on planet Yanhuang. I was killed in an accident because I was betrayed. Then, my soul crossed over to this world and was reincarnated in another body, Duan Lingtian said with a bitter smile. Can that truly happen? The three-legged golden crow's tone was filled with surprise. Evidently, he could not understand Duan Lingtian's experience. What about you? How did you come? Duan Lingtian asked, somewhat excited in his heart. The three-legged golden crow was from Earth like him. However, he was merely an ordinary human being on Earth, but the three-legged golden crow was a powerful existence in ancient myths and legends who had a strength comparable to the gods. His heart was full of curiosity about how the three-legged golden crow had arrived there. Perhaps, I could go back to Earth, Duan Lingtian secretly thought. I came along with the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Before Li Jing was killed, he forcefully tore through time and space and threw the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda into the black hole. The three-legged golden crow recalled, the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was severely damaged after it was thrown into the black hole. Even I was seriously injured. I didn't wake up until 100 years ago, and then I began to recover from my injuries. Li Jing, you meant the heavenly king with a pagoda in hand, Li Jing. Nezha's father. Duan Lingtian secretly gasped again and asked. It's him. Then, the three-legged golden crow mocked, he's a useless guy. Depengkara, the old monk, actually gave the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda to him, but it was such a waste. The Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was damaged. Not only was I seriously injured, but even the 6 other celestial supreme treasures in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda were also damaged. I don't even know when they can be recovered, sighed the three-legged golden crow. 6 other celestial supreme treasures. Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he heard that. However, before he had the time to continue asking the three-legged golden crow, Di Yong's voice already echoed in his ear, boy, everything's cleared between you and me, so I should leave now and head to Dao Martial Saint Land. Di Yong left after he spoke to Duan Lingtian. He did not even tell the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island. Following that, Duan Lingtian called out to Han Shui Nai and brought the 3 Vice Island Masters to go back to Half Moon Island. After they returned to Half Moon Island, Duan Lingtian went back to the residence he had stayed at for the past year in his room. He never even had the time to greet the 2 women and the 3 little fellows. When Duan Lingtian was back in his room, he stared intensely at the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda in his hands and asked, earlier, you said that there were 6 other celestial supreme treasure in the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, didn't you? Of course. The Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda is known as the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda because there are 7 treasures in it, the three-legged golden crow said. 7 treasures. Apart from the 6 celestial supreme treasures. What about the one other treasure? Duan Lingtian asked puzzledly. The one other treasure naturally was me, revealed the three-legged golden crow. I've almost forgotten about you. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly and asked again, what are the 6 other celestial supreme treasures? The 6 other celestial supreme treasures are the Jasper Celestial Sword, the Astonished God Halberd, the Universe Ruler, the Heaven Net Umbrella, the Cleansed World Horsetail Whisk, and the War Heaven Spear. Can you lend me one? Duan Lingtian asked with a burning passion in his eyes. 6 pieces of celestial supreme treasures, one would know that they were relics just from the name. If he could obtain one, would he not be invincible? Those were celestial supreme treasures. Before the celestial supreme treasures, even the 10 greatest super saint weapons in the 10 great saint weapon rankings on Dao Martial Saint Land was nothing compared to it. If you want to use it, go and get it yourself. They are on the 2nd to the 7th level of the 7 treasures Exquisite Pagoda respectively, shared the three-legged golden crow. Get it myself. How can I get it? Duan Lingtian looked at the 7 treasures Exquisite Pagoda in his hands. Could it be possible that I have to find somewhere spacious and ask the 7 treasures Exquisite Pagoda to enlarge to enter? When we were on the seabed, the 7 treasures Exquisite Pagoda already established you as the owner. Now, you merely need a thought to enter the 7 treasures Exquisite Pagoda. A thought? Duan Lingtian looked at the 7 treasures Exquisite Pagoda in his hands. With a thought, he felt a flash appear before his eyes and then he found that he had arrived at a strange place. It was a spacious and expansive space. When he first entered, he felt a burning aura on his face as if he was in a world of fire. However, the burning aura only disappeared moments later. At the same time, Duan Lingtian saw a big bird which suddenly appeared before him. It was a huge bird with golden flames around it. The biggest difference between this bird and an ordinary bird was that it had 3 feet. Ordinary birds merely had 2 feet. Are you the 3-legged golden crow? Duan Lingtian gasped and asked with a shocked expression when he saw the flaming bird which exuded a strong aura. Yes, the flaming bird, which was the 3-legged golden crow, nodded. This is the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was severely damaged after it came here through the black hole. So far, only the first level has been recovered. For that reason, I was awoken, the 3-legged golden crow continued saying. He was one of the 7 treasures of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda which guarded the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. That was the most important level. To get to the second level, one must pass through the first level. Just now, you said that the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had established you as the owner. When did that happen? Duan Lingtian asked. Currently, what he wanted to know the most was that he remembered that he did not let the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda establish any ownership. Establishing ownership seemed to require a blood ownership claim, did it not? When the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda helped you be reincarnated, he had already established you as his master, explained the 3-legged golden crow. Chapter 1338. After talking to the 3-legged golden crow, Duan Lingtian sorted out the situation. The 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda he had obtained was the very weapon that Li Jing of the ancient myths and legends of his past life had always carried around. It was a top celestial supreme treasure. According to the 3-legged golden crow, Li Jing had been killed, but before he perished, he forcefully tore through time and space and threw the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda into the black hole to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. The black hole was extremely terrifying. Even Li Jing's murderer did not dare to enter it. As a top celestial supreme treasure, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda sustained some damages while traveling through the black hole, but was not destroyed. Finally, it passed through the black hole and came to a strange planet. 100 years ago, on the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, the 3-legged golden crow was awakened. Although he had recovered from his injuries as time passed, he had no way out since he was a pagoda spirit in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and could not leave the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda at his will. For the past 100 years, the 3-legged golden crow never thought that there was a way out. Even though he was one of the pagoda spirits of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, he could not do anything when the pagoda would not establish ownership with anyone apart from those from Yanhuang land. He could not affect the will of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda which existence preceded his. However, he did not expect to meet someone from Yanhuang land on this strange planet after 100 years. More accurately, he did not expect to meet someone with the soul of a Yanhuang land person. Not only that, but the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had also established ownership with him on its own accord. At that moment, the 3-legged golden crow knew that he had found the way out. The 3-legged golden crow who had been alive for many years had a heart as calm as water. He did not feel any emotion even when Duan Lingtian mentioned his mortal enemy, Hui. However, when he learned that he had found a way out, his emotions were somewhat stirred up. It's a pity, I couldn't get any one of the 6 celestial supreme treasures, Duan Lingtian sighed regretfully. In the 3-legged golden crow's words, he had to restore the levels of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda if he wanted to get the 6 other celestial supreme treasures. After so many years, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda merely repaired the first level by itself, which led to the awakening of the 3-legged golden crow. Now, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda had used up its remaining power to help him be reincarnated. After depleting the power, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was temporarily unable to continue restoring the 2nd to the 7th levels. If you can find the materials I need, then I can help to restore the 2nd level with the Flame of Sun, the 3-legged golden crow said. By then, you'd be able to enter the 2nd level and obtain the Jasper Celestial Sword there. What do you need? Duan Lingtian's eyes brightened. I don't know what the materials are called here. I'll do it this way. I'll imprint the appearance of the materials into your brain. As the 3-legged golden crow said this, a flash streaked in his eyes with a burning flame. A beam of light that moved so quickly that it was almost unnoticeable shot out and instantly pierced in between Duan Lingtian's eyebrows to enter his body. In an instant, Duan Lingtian felt dizzy. At the same time, he discovered that there were many images in his mind. These images were various types of materials including medicinal material, metal, and stones. Besides that, there were also some liquids. I don't seem to have any impression of these materials. Wait. I've seen this. Isn't it the empty soul grass? And this seems to be the Stride Mountain stone. While Duan Lingtian murmured, he raised his hands and retrieved 2 items. They were some grass and a crimson stone. How much of these 2 materials do you have? The 3-legged golden crow's eyes lit up as he asked. These are rare materials on the Cloud Continent. I don't have a lot of them with me, but I can ask the others to go and collect them. While Duan Lingtian informed him of that, he retrieved whatever he had with him. With these 2 materials, I can start restoring the 2nd level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. However, to fully restore the 2nd level, we'd need more, the 3-legged golden crow said. I understand. I'll ask the others to collect the materials you've requested for. Duan Lingtian nodded. Currently, he was in control of Half Moon Island. With just an order, everyone on Half Moon Island under the 3 greatest Vice Island Masters would work for him. Moreover, as the greatest of the 4 greatest overseas Saint Islands, Half Moon Island was extremely powerful, so he could ask the other 3 overseas Saint Islands to help to search for the materials as well. As for the Cloud Continent, he had the Lingtian sect, which was currently already the #1 sect on the continent with great power of influence. He would then be able to utilize the whole of the Cloud Continent's strength to find the materials. Right, how should I address you in the future? Duan Lingtian asked the 3-legged golden crow. You're the new master of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda and I'm the Pagoda Spirit of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. Naturally, you're my master too. You can call me anything you want. Then, I'll call you Elder Huo in the future. Duan Lingtian sized up the 3-legged golden crow and exclaimed, I still remember, in the ancient myths and legends, the 3-legged golden crow was known as the ancestor who played with fire. When it comes to playing with fire, no one could match you. Duan Lingtian said. Master, you flatter me. On playing with fire, we 3-legged golden crows were one of the best on planet Yanhuang. However, there was someone comparable to us on planet Yanhuang, responded the 3-legged golden crow. While he spoke, the flames on his body surged and then drew in. A dazzling ray of light shone like a burning sun. Duan Lingtian felt a sharp twinge in his eyes because of it and immediately squeezed them shut. When he opened his eyes again, he found out that the 3-legged golden crow was gone. Instead, there was an old man in gold in his place. The old man was skinny. In fact, he was so skinny that he was all skin and bones. However, his eyes were shimmering. They brimmed with radiating vigor like 2 blazing suns on his face. Duan Lingtian knew that he was a transformation of the 3-legged golden crow. Elder Huo, the person you mentioned, is he the god of fire, Zhu Rong, from the ancient myths and legends? Duan Lingtian looked at the old man and asked curiously. That's right, it's Zhu Rong. Elder Huo nodded. His heavenly fire was on the same grade as my flames of sun. He was known as the god of fire by the people because he brought them fire and light. Ah, yes, Duan Lingtian nodded. He had heard about the illusion Elder Huo mentioned. Elder Huo, the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda was a top celestial treasure. Even if it were damaged, would it still be of help to me? Duan Lingtian asked. That was what he cared about the most. As the saying went, a sleeping lion was stronger than a barking dog. In his subconscious mind, he felt that the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda would still be an asset to him. Of course, Elder Huo nodded. Although the cultivation environment of the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda you're at right now is ordinary, the speed of time here is slower than the outside world by 1-fold. Slower by 1-fold? What does that even mean? Duan Lingtian took some time to digest this information. It means that 1 day outside is equivalent to 2 days inside the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, Elder Huo explained. 1 day outside is equivalent to 2 days inside the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. This time, Duan Lingtian finally regained his senses as shock and disbelief were apparent on his face. Does it mean that if I cultivate here for 2 days, only 1 day would have passed outside? That's right, Elder Huo nodded. Following the confirmation from Elder Huo, Duan Lingtian's heartbeat quickened suddenly, beating faster and faster. When he had entered the first level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, he had clearly felt that the cultivation environment here was much better than that on Half Moon Island. As for the extent to which it was better, it would have to wait until he cultivated there to find out. A decent cultivation environment and a slower flow of time, it's an absolutely perfect cultivation place here. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath which calmed his racing heart. Following that, Duan Lingtian asked Elder Huo about his rebirth. It should be noted that he had completed the reincarnation process through the 10,000-year stalactite milk. Although the Seven Treasures Exquisite Pagoda used the power it had accumulated for so many years to help him break through 3 levels at once to arrive at the 9th level Martial Emperor stage, that should not have been considered a rebirth. The rebirth you mentioned has only reached the limits of a mortal's body. Now, the actual body of that little devil dragon who just left can't match yours, Elder Huo said. The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched when he heard the old man call Di Yong a little devil dragon. That was a 5-clawed devil dragon. To be exact, he was one of the 5-clawed divine dragons, a dragon clan's lineal descendant. Elder Huo, you said that his actual body isn't even as strong as mine. What does that mean? Duan Lingtian asked. As far as he knew, a dragon's body, especially that of a dragon clan's lineal descendant, the 5-clawed divine dragon, was one of the best in the whole of Dao Martial Saint Land. Setting aside a human who was born weak, even other powerful demons were not comparable to them. Elder Huo said, currently, his body might be stronger than yours, but that was because his cultivation base was higher than yours. If your cultivation base were to be the same as his, your body would definitely be stronger than his actual body. In the past, Duan Lingtian had learned from the current Di Yong, who was also the old Wang Ba, that the strength of a martial cultivator or Dao cultivator's body was closely related to their cultivation base. Not only would the dragon's actual body improve as their cultivation base improved, but the same applied to a human too. However, the human body's improvement would never be able to measure up to the improvement of the dragon's actual body. Even if human broke through to the saint stage, their body could not even compare to a 3-clawed divine dragon who was at the early stage mortal shedding stage, less the 5-clawed divine dragon. Now, the Elder Huo had said that his body was stronger than the actual body of a 5-clawed devil dragon on the same cultivation base. How could this not shock him? Elder Huo, is that really true? Duan Lingtian's breathing quickened as he asked hesitantly. Chapter 1339. After obtaining the confirmation from Elder Huo, Duan Lingtian could not hide his excitement. It was common knowledge that a person's strength was significantly affected by the strength of their body. It was just like how a dragon race was more powerful than a human who had the same cultivation base and the same method due to its stronger physique, even humans who had opened their saint veins included. It would not be hard for a 5-clawed divine dragon to fight a higher-level enemy. Duan Lingtian calmed himself down after a moment and then he continued asking, how powerful are you currently, Elder Huo? I'm unsure. Elder Huo shook his head. I'm not familiar with the stages of cultivation in this world. However, the current version of me can finish off that little devil dragon from before in a single breath as easily as swatting a fly. After listening to Elder Huo, Duan Lingtian's jaw dropped. Finishing Di Yong off with a breath was just as easy as swatting a fly. He was well aware that Di Yong was a powerful intermediate mortal shedding stage being, whereas the old man in the golden robe was merely a 3-legged golden crow in the pagoda spirit of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda who had not recovered from the injuries sustained previously. From what I can see, you must be even more powerful than a saint stage cultivator, Duan Lingtian guessed. He grew excited as he sorted out his thoughts. Did it mean that from now on, he would have another super henchman by his side? Before completely restoring the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, you have no means of making me leave the pagoda even if you're its owner, Elder Huo said just in the nick of time as if he had read Duan Lingtian's mind. Duan Lingtian forced a smile on his face after listening to Elder Huo. At that moment, he felt like a pail of cold water had been poured right over his head. How long more till we can completely restore the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda? Apart from the slower passage of time and better cultivation environment in the first level, does the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda have any other function that benefits me currently? Duan Lingtian was unresigned as he continued to ask. He was determined to fully exploit and extract whatever value remained in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. No, Elder Huo shook his head. So, I can't even hide in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda when I'm in danger. Duan Lingtian did not give up and asked further. There were independent spaces in the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda. If he could hide in the pagoda when he faced danger, then those who wanted to harm him would not be able to do anything about it. Before the restoration of the 4th level of the 7 Treasures Exquisite Pagoda, you'll be evicted from the pagoda instantaneously if someone tries to move it, Elder Huo said. Elder Huo, can't you grab onto me then to prevent me from being evicted? Duan Lingtian still felt unresigned. I can't. Elder Huo shook his head yet again. His reply completely crushed Duan Lingtian's hopes. You mentioned the complete restoration of the 4th level of the 7 Treasure Exquisite Pagoda. Do you mean that after the complete restoration of the 4th level, I can hide in the 7-treasure exquisite pagoda? Duan Lingtian recollected what Elder Huo said earlier and asked. That's correct. Elder Huo nodded. Why's that so? Duan Lingtian probed. Only then will the internal space of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda be considered relatively stable and unaffected by the outside world, Elder Huo said. I see, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is divided into 7 levels. After restoring 4 levels, then the inner space of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda will only be considered stable. Duan Lingtian finally understood it after the explanation from Elder Huo. I must restore the 2nd to the 4th level as soon as possible, Duan Lingtian secretly vowed. At that time, he would have a life-saving amulet, because even if he met a powerful enemy, he could hide in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda to avoid them. Something's not right. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian thought of something and asked Elder Huo, back then, why didn't pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li Jing hide in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda should be in perfect condition, shouldn't it? Since it was in perfect condition, the inner space of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda should be perfectly stable at that time. Therefore, the pagoda-bearing heavenly King Li Jing should be able to enter it to avoid disaster. At that time, the enemies Li Jing faced were more powerful than you can imagine. He wouldn't have survived even if he hid in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. In addition to that, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda would have fallen into the enemy's hands. Elder Huo paused when he spoke about Li Jing's enemies. One could sense the fear in his eyes. It was a fear towards the enemies Li Jing faced. Oh, I see. Duan Lingtian nodded. However, I don't think there's anyone on this planet who's able to destroy the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Therefore, as long as you are able to restore the 4th level, then your life is ensured in every battle. Elder Huo said, of course, that is if you're able to enter the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda before being killed by your enemies. Duan Lingtian nodded. If there's nothing else, I'll get started on the restoration of the 2nd level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, Elder Huo said. Elder Huo, can I bring people into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? Duan Lingtian asked. As the owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, of course, you'd be able to bring people in if you wish. However, I'd suggest against it in view of your current strength to prevent green-eyed monsters, Elder Huo said. Relax, Elder Huo, I'll only bring in people who I can trust. I assure you, Duan Lingtian said. Then, that's fine, I just giving you some advice, Elder Huo said. Elder Huo, can I bring people into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda forcefully? For example, if I meet an enemy that I can't defeat, can I bring him in here forcefully and get your help to defeat him? Duan Lingtian asked with a hopeful expression on his face. This was an idea he had just come up with. Before the complete restoration of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, you're only able to bring people in if only they're willing, or else it'd be impossible. Elder Huo wiped Duan Lingtian's hope away with his statement, which made the latter smile bitterly. Elder Huo, do you mean that if the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is fully restored, then I'll be able to bring people in forcefully? Duan Lingtian continued to ask. An undamaged 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is a very powerful celestial treasure which is good in both offense and defense. You'll be able to imprison him in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda as long as your opponent isn't far more powerful than you are. Elder Huo said, as long as you are able to imprison your enemies into the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, then I'll be able to help you to finish him off. What if you can't beat him? Duan Lingtian shot him a weird look and asked. If I am weaker, then I'll hide on another level. Anyway, he'll only be able to move around in the level that he's imprisoned on, Elder Huo said frankly. Duan Lingtian became speechless after listening to him. Was that a solution? Elder Huo, I have another question. Is it possible for me to return to planet Yanhuang in the future? Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and asked in a serious tone. Planet Yanhuang was also known as Earth. In the past, he had suppressed his obsession to kill the fellow who had betrayed him because his chances of returning to Earth was slim. Now, after coming across the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, his suppressed obsession started to resurface. It is not a question of possibility, I can confirm that we'll be able to go back to planet Yanhuang on the condition that you increase your strength, Elder Huo said. Duan Lingtian's eye sparkled instantly. As long as I have sufficient strength, I'll be able to return to planet Yanhuang. He thought to himself. At that moment, Duan Lingtian felt his heart start racing. That was because he now had a new goal. Duan Lingtian's new goal was to return to Earth. I hope that you'll live longer, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself with a cold glint in his eyes. Shortly after that, Duan Lingtian was back in his room with a flash before his eyes after some thought. I can't believe I'm able to meet you in this world. Duan Lingtian's face was filled with a wide grin as he looked at the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda before him. He was in a great mood right now. Soon, the smile on his face froze when he discovered that he was unable to store the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda in his spatial ring. Elder Huo, why can't I store it? Duan Lingtian asked using voice transmission to broadcast his voice into the first level of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Your spatial ring is just a low-level space which can't contain anything alive. Since I'm in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, your spatial ring won't be able to store it, Elder Huo explained. I almost forgot. Duan Lingtian smiled awkwardly, feeling silly. He knew that spatial rings could not store living organisms. You can turn the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda smaller and place it into your ears just like how the monkey son hid his auspicious gold hoop staff. Elder Huo's voice rang out just as Duan Lingtian was unsure about how to store the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. The monkey son, auspicious gold hoop staff. After listening to Elder Huo, Duan Lingtian asked, Elder Huo, is the monkey son that you mentioned the great sage, the equal of heaven who wreaked havoc in heaven in the past? You're right, it's that horse protector. Elder Huo replied, the horse protector was very powerful. When he wreaked havoc in heaven, Li Jing trapped him in the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. However, it did not take long for him to escape. It seems the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda isn't so powerful after all, Duan Lingtian said. The 7 treasures exquisite pagoda isn't weak, but the horse protector managed to escape due to the person who was using the pagoda being weak. If it had been the original owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda operating it, there was no way the horse protector would have been able to escape, Elder Huo said. The original owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? Duan Lingtian scanned his memories of Earth and asked, is Dipankara Buddha the original owner of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? Yes, he was, Elder Huo replied with a voice filled with resentment. Duan Lingtian was not surprised by the resentment Elder Huo bore. If the legends from Earth were true, then Elder Huo had been imprisoned and forced to become the pagoda spirit of the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda by Dipankara Buddha. Anybody would harbor resentment towards the person who imprisoned them. From what you've said, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda is actually powerful. Duan Lingtian nodded and then asked, Elder Huo, I heard that the auspicious golden hoop staff of the great sage, equal of heaven, is also very powerful. How powerful is it compared to the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda? The auspicious golden hoop staff is at the same grade as the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. However, its offensive capabilities are the best among all of the celestial supreme treasures. Elder Huo's voice trembled slightly upon mentioning the auspicious golden hoop staff. Chapter 1340. If I could meet the great sage Sun even just once in the future, I guess my life would be worth it then, Duan Lingtian mused. Sun Wukong, the great sage and the equal of heaven, was the most beloved character in ancient mythology in his past life. There might be a chance in the future, Elder Huo replied, but right now, you're too far away from that level. Don't think so much and just focus on your cultivation first. After Elder Huo finished his sentence, he no longer said anything and went to repair the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda. Duan Lingtian nodded. After turning the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda smaller, as small as a baby's fingernail, Duan Lingtian casually tossed it into his ear and stuck it at the top of his ear canal. In that case, no matter what he did, the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda would not fall out easily. He walked out of the room and saw the 2 girls chatting with each other idly. The moment the girls saw Duan Lingtian appear, their eyes lit up right away. You scoundrel, you just came back and instantly went back to the room in such a haste. Did you experience some enlightenment and a breakthrough in your strength? Li Fei asked curiously. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded as he smiled. He did not tell them about the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda for the time being, as it would be too inconceivable for the 2 girls to understand. It would be better if he slowly let them understand bit by bit in the future. Young master, have you made a breakthrough to the 7th level martial emperor stage? A look of intense admiration could be seen on Ka's beautiful, delicate face. Yes, Duan Lingtian nodded again. He did not tell them that he had made a breakthrough to the 9th level martial emperor stage because if he did, the 2 girls would most likely be terrified to death. After he had accompanied the 2 girls for a long time, he finally bade them goodbye. I'll go look for the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island first. The moment his words left his mouth, he immediately left. It was a coincidence that the 3 Vice Island Masters of Half Moon Island were gathered together. 3 Vice Island Masters. The moment Duan Lingtian appeared, he instantly took the initiative to greet the 3 of them. Island Master. Although the 3 Vice Island Masters, including Xiao Kun, were unwilling to accept Duan Lingtian as the new owner of Half Moon Island, because they were bound by their oath, they did not dare to ignore him. However, when they greeted Duan Lingtian, the new island master of the Hidden Fog Island, they did not add the word, Lord, in front, unlike how they would address De Yong the last time. They used to call him, Lord Island Master, in a respectful manner. HMPH. Duan Lingtian snorted and cast a sharp glance at the 3 of them before saying in a deep voice, "It looks like the 3 of you don't really respect me as the new island master." In the face of an enraged Duan Lingtian, the 3 of them ignored him completely. "I'll give you one more chance. The 3 of you, join forces and fight with me. If you can block my 3 blows, I'll automatically leave this position of mine as the island master of Half Moon Island." Duan Lingtian snapped, "In this case, all of you won't be considered as going against your oath either." Xiao Kun and the others did not expect that Duan Lingtian would throw such a challenge. They were taken aback at once. A glimpse of hope started to appear deep in their eyes. If they could, of course, they would not be willing to bow to him. "But if you 3 are defeated, I hope you'll respect me as you would respect Yi Yang," Duan Lingtian demanded. Sure, Xiao Kun and the other 2 did not have any qualms with the condition. Right away, they agreed to it. In their opinions, Duan Lingtian was merely a young calf who was not afraid of tigers. Did he want to defeat them in 3 blows? What an idiotic dream. They knew Duan Lingtian's strength. Even though he was quite powerful, he was still a distance away from them. HMPH. Seeing how Xiao Kun and the 2 others had agreed to him, Duan Lingtian snorted and with a raise of his hand, the Royal Grade Spirit Archery set appeared. With one hand holding onto the bow, his other hand gripped the arrow. The moment the bowstring appeared, Duan Lingtian flexed the bow and slid the arrow onto it before pulling the bowstring into the shape of a full moon and then letting go of the arrow in his hand. Whoosh! At once, the arrow soared through the sky like a black lightning streak. Body and arrow synchronization. At the same time, Duan Lingtian took a great leap and landed on the black lightning bolt lightly. Charging out along with the lightning bolt, his speed increased and soon he became a residual image in front of Xiao Kun and the 2. At that moment, the 3 of them turned grave. Casting aside all the others, just the speed that Duan Lingtian demonstrated alone was in no way inferior to theirs. However, they still did not think that he would be able to defeat them. Judging from the speed that he demonstrated, his strength was on par with any one of them at the most. It was almost impossible for him to defeat them when they joined forces with one another, let alone defeat the 3 of them. Go! After exchanging glances with each other, the trio rushed out and shot out to 3 different directions with a speed that was the same as the speed that Duan Lingtian cast using his body and arrow synchronization. Then, they charged towards him and surrounded him. "This is just in time to test just how powerful my body is right now." As the 3 men charged at him in fury, Duan Lingtian's face remained unchanged. A faint 5-colored light shield appeared by his side and enveloped him in it. If one noticed clearly, one would see that this 5-colored light shield was actually formed by multiple 5-colored divine dragons that were soaring quickly. 9 Dragons Barrier. The technique that Duan Lingtian cast now was the Heaven Rank Advanced Defensive Martial Skill attached to the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. After the 5-colored light shield rose, Duan Lingtian came to a halt right away. The arrow underneath his feet had also returned to his hand now. Die! Seeing Duan Lingtian come to a halt and set up a defensive light shield in an attempt to withstand their attacks, Xiao Kun and the 2 others smirked with a movement in their hand that remained the same speed as they charged out thunderously. Boom, 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 3 lightning-like figures charged towards Duan Lingtian from 3 different directions. Some were using punches while the other used his palm. As they pounced out, they set off a series of thunderous blasts. In just the twinkling of an eye, punches and slaps landed on the 5-colored light shield surrounding Duan Lingtian's body. Boom, 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 as a series of thunderous explosions resonated, gushes of rolling impact waves were set off and the 5-colored light shield proceeded to crumble underneath them. At the same time, the trio's attack also landed on Duan Lingtian. Boom, boom, boom. 2 punches and 1 palm landed on Duan Lingtian as 3 stifling sounds reverberated in the air. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, did not change his expression at all as he remained composed and collected. Is this the body that's more powerful than the true form of the 5-clawed divine dragon? The 3 of them are all at the peak of the martial emperor stage and without any spirit weapon. Their punches and palm attacks seemed to be scratching some itch for me when they landed on my body after having a part of it blocked by my defensive martial skill. Duan Lingtian's heart skipped a beat. Only then did he realize just how terrifying the transformation that his body had undergone was. Duan Lingtian was very clear about his own strength. The reason his speed was on par with Shao Kun and the other 2 was that of the body and arrow synchronization, the movement technique in the Saint-grade martial tactic, and the colossal arrow-light arrow that he cast. His body and arrow synchronization had now reached the fundamental awareness stage. As for his defense, for he did not cast the defense skill in the Saint-grade martial tactic. By right, he would not have been able to withstand the attack. However, right then, he had blocked them. All of this was because his body's defenses were strong. Right then, his body was no longer comparable by the other ordinary human martial emperors. After he was reborn with the help from the 7 treasures exquisite pagoda, his body was now even stronger than a 5-clawed divine dragon according to Elder Huo. In fact, the 5-clawed divine dragon's body was so powerful that it was already well known in Dao Martial Saint Land. In the entire Dao Martial Saint Land, there were only very few others who had a body that was as strong as the 5-clawed divine dragon. How is this possible? After Shao Kun and the 2 others noticed that their attacks were blocked by Duan Lingtian's body by force, horror dawned on them right away as they stared at him as if they had just seen a ghost. Although the force of their attack was already blocked partially, the energy contained in it was still extremely blood-curdling. At first, they thought that Duan Lingtian would at least be severely injured if he did not die. However, the outcome had totally exceeded their expectations. Duan Lingtian was completely unharmed. Was he still a freaking human? Was there any human who had such a freaky body? It's my turn now, Duan Lingtian announced indifferently. His tone was calm, but he managed to take Shao Kun and the 2 others by shock. When they finally returned to their senses, they noticed that Duan Lingtian had already shot out an arrow which appeared like a lightning bolt, and he himself had already left along with that arrow before appearing in the distance in just the blink of an eye. Upon seeing this, they breathed a sigh of relief. However, soon, they saw that when Duan Lingtian slipped his body to the side, he suddenly turned around without warning and the eyes that were looking at them had become extremely sharp. At the same time, he had raised the archery set in his hands. **T. Horror dawned on them right away. Each of them hastily took out their own spirit weapons. They knew that Duan Lingtian was going to make his attack now. First blow. Just as the 3 had their spirit weapons in their hands and had no time to dodge yet, Duan Lingtian's calm voice already echoed in the air once again and entered their ears, sending chills all the way down their spines. Arrow light strike. At the same time, the arrow in Duan Lingtian's hand shot out at a speed so fast that Shao Kun and the 2 others could not react in time. Spurt, spurt, 2 gushes of dazzling fresh blood splattered in the air. The shoulders of Shao Kun and the other Vice Island masters of Half Moon Island were stabbed, leaving only 2 horrendous bloody holes that continued to gush non-stop with fresh blood. With just 1 shot of his arrow, he managed to injure 2 of them. The 2 of them who were injured exchanged glances with each other and a bitter smile crept upon the corner of their mouths. They were clear in their hearts that their opponent had already shown some mercy towards them. Otherwise, the arrow just now would not have pierced through their shoulders. Instead, it would have been their chests. Just as the last Vice Island master of Half Moon Island came to his senses and was about to flee, Duan Lingtian announced once again before shooting out another arrow from his hand, second blow. Arrow light strike. Since his single arrow could injure the 2 of them, injuring just 1 of them was an even easier task for him. In just the blink of an eye, the shoulder of the last Vice Island master of Half Moon Island had also been pierced through as well. He had defeated the 3 of them in just 2 blows. With the help of the movement technique's first stage, the fundamental awareness stage, of the Saint-grade martial tactic that he cultivated, Duan Lingtian's speed was on par with the 3 of them. Given the help of his powerful body, he could withstand the attacks from the 3 of them. With the help of the offensive technique's second stage, the elementary stage, of the Saint-grade martial tactic that he cultivated, the 3 of them could not withstand his attack at all. Lord Island Master. Right at this moment, as Shao Kun and the other 2 were consumed by bafflement. They were also sincerely convinced from their hearts that Duan Lingtian was the new island master of Half Moon Island. They now acknowledged Duan Lingtian from the bottom of their hearts.